Welcome to Open Tables. With your hosts, Cynthia Sue Larson.
But it's okay for everybody to change. It's okay to let things go. And that's really powerful.
Christopher Anatra.
The universe is based on commerce. You know me as the quantum businessman.
Jerry Hicks.
I feel like I've woken up in a parallel dimension where everybody's exactly the same. They look the same memories generally speaking, but they're different.
And Shane Robinson.
Nobody has all the answers, so everybody's welcome to share their ideas, and it really expands our consciousness when we do that.
Open Tables. Unique perspectives for a new view of reality.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the International Mandela Effect Conference, mini-conference, episode 9 of Season 3. I am so glad to have you guys here with me. I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And before we get into the fun and the meat of the episode, we've got to do a little legal stuff. So the content you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe space to express thoughts, ideas, and information. Please note that no copyright infringement is intended with regard to inclusion of short excerpts of material that are included in accordance with fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. Also, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on, I want to remind everyone we are a 501c3 organization, which means we are completely funded by you, the community. So anything you guys can do to help us, super chat, super sticker, super whatever is available on YouTube, we very much appreciate that. Also, make sure you check out our Patreon page. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not able to do this alone, haven't been from day one, so I'm about to introduce my incredible team. First up, we have Cynthia Sue Larson of RealityShifters.com. Next up, we have Christopher Anatra. You know him as the Quantum Businessman.
Hey, everybody.
And last but not least, Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence. How you doing, guys?
Great. Let's go. So good to be together again. Love it. My favorite day of the month.
I would like to say that I hope everyone had a happy and wonderful Thanksgiving, and I say that on behalf of the entire team. I know we all agree on that sentiment. So I hope you guys had a wonderful turkey day. I hope you had more food than you know what to do with.
Yeah, and guess what? On Black Friday, I didn't get trampled at Walmart, so
nice. That's always a plus.
If I ever get lost and you're trying to find me, on Black Friday, you won't find me in any stores, so you can cross that right off the list.
I spent my whole day in a restaurant cooking food, so you won't find me there either.
Making people happy.
Absolutely. All about service to others. But that's what we're here for, ladies and gentlemen, is to serve you guys with another wonderful show on Mandela Effects. So let us jump right into the mix. We have got quite a bit to go over today, ladies and gentlemen. Our show agenda quite filled out here. This month's Mandanimals sponsors, IMEC board member updates, followed by Scud Clouds, Starry Night or The Starry Night. You guys think about that one. Orange auroras, followed by a diagonal half moon. I've heard a lot of people talking about the moon in chat already. It's pretty strange out there. Space shuttle astronauts now wear blue jumpsuits. What? Bioluminescent mushrooms. Trovants. What is a trovant? How does a rock reproduce? What? Guys, we got a weird world we've ended up in. I don't know about y'all. I think we jumped to something odd here. Haagen-Dazs or Haagen-Dazs. Whatever. Cow udders. Where are the cow's udders? You might be surprised when you find this one out. Back to the Future. How many toll windows does the DeLorean have? I know some of you guys scratching your head. I promise it'll make sense later. Michael Jackson in the Jackson 6. JFK assassination Mandela Effects. Man, the tongue's already done. I got a show tonight. Suzanne Sumbers name changes. Great Pyramid of Giza has how many sides? What is the Amaterasu particle? Mailbag and Q&A. So we've got quite a bit to go over today. I don't know what just happened. My screen just blinked. That was weird. So
you're
might as well. What's that?
You're kind of like your video has locked up on me.
There you go. You're back. You're back.
That
Now
was
you're back.
weird. I just had a whole like system blink. That was odd.
Timeline change.
That X flare hit you over there.
Wouldn't be surprised on either one of those. Probably both, right? One causing a timeline change, right? That's actually one of my theories, believe it or not. The flares have some kind of
Like
particles
the flash, like a flash too.
Yeah. My whole screen just flashed.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Last week, my mother calls me and she's like, "Chris, did you see the flash?" I'm like, it was at 6 o'clock in the morning. And all right, already, Mom. Like, I'm sleeping at 6 o'clock in the morning, but she's like, there was this bright flash and it affected everything in the house and everything outside. So some people are like seeing these flashes. It's something that's happening.
What time of day was that?
This was 6 a.m. in the morning is when it happened.
Because I had a dark flash at noon, and then my house was ringing like a bell back in, May, June of this year. So there's definitely stuff going on.
There's stuff going on, people.
Maybe this is what happens when physics starts breaking down, right?
Well, if anyone, by the way, people watching this, if you can comment on the YouTube, we'd love to see what you're experiencing. So if anything like that's happening for you, please comment. And if you got questions, ask them there too.
Ariana Elise says that flash keeps happening on my car navigation screen, like every few minutes. I wonder if that's something
wow.
Affecting electronics and stuff. Totally. Like it just did for Jerry there.
We are having solar activity. That was something Chris was mentioning.
Yeah. And like last week, my friend Sean Bond that I do the podcast with, he's been on the show here. Everybody probably knows him. He had something that happened and his hard drive got fried. My cell phone stopped working. I had to get a new cell phone. Like we're all having all these like crazy electrical issues. And there's other things that are going on too to show us that like time is changing, and we're even giving ourselves, I think, clues for that as well. So yeah, it just goes on and on. Like there's so many examples I have, and I'm sure people listening to us.
It's funny you should mention that because about 2 days ago, my phone locked up. And then when I went to reboot it, it like did that flash thing and wouldn't like reboot for a couple of minutes. Kept like blinking. Finally, I got it going again. Ain't had a single issue since.
Yeah, because a lot of times too, we have a lot of information stored on our computer and pictures and all that. So maybe it's a way of telling us like, put that stuff kind of behind us, because now we're on a new, better, higher frequency bandwidth timeline, and we're going to be creating something new, not to be caught up with the older stuff.
That sounds true. Sounds
Sorry,
good.
I was just reading the chat over here. People are all about the computer glitches.
So it's a widespread phenomenon. Interesting. And it's different. Like what you saw, Jerry, you've been working with technology for years. So for you to report a flash, it's not like a normal blink or nothing like that.
No, that was out of the blue, completely out of the blue. There's no reason it should have done that. I'm sorry, which one is it? Wow, they are going off over here. Eve says computer glitches, phone glitches, internet glitches in the last week.
Yeah.
So I've been finding that myself, and I'm sure we could all agree with that. So there's definitely something very strange going on with our electronics, ladies and gentlemen, whether that may be solar storms or God knows what. Maybe Mandela Effect. Maybe we are in a timeline shift, which has been mentioned here in chat also. Perhaps those are examples of shifts. Maybe.
Yeah. I'd say that's a good guess. And I've had a lot of electronic glitches with Kundalini effects when I was running a lot more energy than usual through myself. Then if I entered a room, appliances would fail if I was ungrounded. So that's another, and we got a feedback thing going.
Yeah, it's my phone. I've got to take a call.
Let's
Okay.
see. Lissa in the
Mm.
chat says Dick Van Dyke is alive again for me. Wow. Does
Oh,
anybody remember
wow.
Dick Van Dyke passing away?
Yeah,
You're not alone.
Yeah, because he would do that show on New Year's Eve, and they had to replace him because
Hmm.
I thought because he died.
Not in this timeline, so maybe we'll see him. This
Well, I'm
ball
glad
drop.
he's back. Yeah, that would be great.
We'll invite him on the show.
Yeah, standing welcome. We'd love to have him. So any other, Jerry said there was a lot in the comment section. Is there another one you want to point out, Shane?
Yeah, let's see. Rose, the next one says, yes, must agree on the electronics. I get a lot of glitches and weirdness. Thanks for chiming in, Rose. Let's see. Let me scroll back up here. Let's see. Before
Says all she would do is look at a photocopy machine and it would break. Well, I think that might be the photocopy machines, to be honest.
I mean, no, some people have that ability where their body is giving off so much chi energy. They literally can like blow out light bulbs and have that kind of an effect. So
Well,
I can tell you in the backstage lounge over at Rip and Rabbit Hole, which I know you guys have all been in at one point or another. There's times where my friends back there will get excited about something. I've seen it happen with myself too. I'll get into something, I'll get excited, I'll get to talking, and it will lock the system up.
Yes. And I gave a workshop once with someone who was organizing it. I knew better than to organize it myself, because if I do it, then the recordings break down. It goes into several feeds and people can't find the room. And she kept assuring me that never happens. It'll be fine. I said, good, I'll ground myself. Well, anyway, came the big day for the event, and we had everybody that was participating. It got this kind of thing I've seen this sort of thing before. They didn't know which link to go to. Somehow there were more than one room set up, even though that's impossible, according to her. So yeah, we ourselves can do this, even if there isn't a solar event going on. So it's, anyway, interesting times.
Absolutely.
And by the way, none of that is woo as far as ourselves, because it is admitted by science we give off a bioelectric field, and the emotions that we experience can increase or decrease that field, which has been shown with dowsing rods as well as a number of other devices to detect such fields. And
photonic detectors. I cover the science of that in my book, Aurora Advantage, because when a typical person enters a room, they add light to it. They do. Now, I say a typical person, you can actually find one of those people that you don't want to be around, because guess what? Some of them actually absorb light from the room. And that was also observed from photonic devices. So that's interesting. And clearly we would rather be around people that are radiant and shining and, uplifting, energizing, rather than sort of the vampire effect.
Yeah,
right.
Can I make a random comment? On the screen here, you've got the four of us, right?
Yes.
And on the bottom, I see Shane and myself.
Mm-hmm.
Have we always been in that same position, or do we just flip?
Do we just move around?
Do we just move?
Yeah, because I think I'm in the upper right, but I think Shane was there.
Okay, because like I was looking down doing something, and then I look back up, and I'm like, oh, now I'm on this side of the screen, my right, and then before I was on my left.
I remember you on the lower left, and now you're on the lower right.
Absolutely. And if you guys want to see this too, join our Patreon and watch the Green Room special.
No, this just happened like this minute, like this.
Oh.
Yeah. This is real time.
This is a real timeline shift.
And Shane, you were in the upper right, where I am now. You were there.
Chris, I know
and I'm where Chris is now.
According to YouTube, it's been this way the whole show.
That's funny.
Did somebody really say that?
I'm watching. I'm like, we're scrolling back through the YouTube. According to YouTube, on the timeline, it's been this way the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it changed when Heather had invited us back in.
Yeah, when we come back in, it'll bring us in the order that I called you guys back in.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
But I still
That could be.
I still remember being on the other side, but okay.
Yeah, you were where I am.
Yeah, you were in the green room.
And I was where Cynthia was, and Cynthia was where you were.
But when we cleared the room and I brought you guys back in, it brought you into the order that I called
when he
you.
cleared the room.
We have a regular, typical explanation. Good.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we? Do we really?
Maybe.
But whatever. Okay.
We need some residue here.
We need to see some like sponsors to make us like smile, right?
Let's do it. Let's go
Let's
there.
see who decided to sponsor the show this week. Surprising news from the natural world. What do we got? Sponsor number 1, an extremely rare white platypus. So this is white. This is not albino. This is white. Spotted in early November 23 in the northern New South Wales. Just 15 cases of platypuses that were partially or completely white in records going back to 1803. So only 15 ever.
Wow.
This platypus is leucistic, which we found a lot on this show for some reason, with reduced pigmentation rather than an albino. And we actually have a video of this little guy, correct?
Yes, let's see. Oh, wow.
So there we go. Isn't it cute?
Wow.
So
Oh my
first
gosh.
off, this is like God's biggest joke to humans, right? The duck-billed platypus.
Yes. It's kind of like a mixture of all sorts of animals, like part beaver, part duck. But what the heck is going on there?
Yeah, God had a lot of
It's
extra
spooked a
underwater
little bit.
parts sitting around, so he just threw them together, right? But seriously, you're right. What is going on? We've got a leucistic white platypus.
Leucistic, yes.
Is it leucistic or leucistic?
I pronounce it leucistic, but
Leucistic? Okay.
I think, yeah.
Well, I'm probably saying it wrong, to be honest with you.
I just say leucism. Is it platypi or platypuses? This is a real question. You know what the answer is?
No.
Platypi?
No, it's platypuses.
What?
Yeah, something about that the way the Latin works or something. It's not like you wouldn't put the pi at the end. So there's actually, if you see a group of them, you see a group of platypuses. Trivia.
I've never seen a
Learn
group of them.
Right? I don't think I ever have either, now that I think about it. Learn something new every day or your day has been wasted.
Yeah, and I'll just mention too, so like when I tune into the white animals, I
Yes.
get them as super protectors.
Mm-hmm.
And usually super protectors of a certain area, like usually the area that they're based off of. But I was tuning into that this was a little bit different. This wasn't a super, like the white platypus wasn't a super protector of a certain geographical area, but it was more of all the different species, that all the different types, like mammals, amphibians, and so forth. It has some kind of a role to play with that.
Oh gosh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it looks like a conglomerate already. It seems like it's aligning. It's it's affiliated with many different types of things, like birds,
Birds.
and mammals. Yeah, probably everything. Reptiles. It doesn't quite look like a reptile, but it's aquatic, so it's tuned in with animals in the oceans and the water.
That makes sense.
Beautiful. And we need a protector for all these areas at this time.
Yes, ma'am. The whole earth needs a protector at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The guardians. Yes.
Yes.
So that is the extremely rare white platypus, ladies and gentlemen. Even though it's rare, it exists. Now, let's keep an eye on this, folks, because something tells me that as we go on, it's going to become less and less rare. Maybe not. We'll see. But with that said, she is on it. I love it. Sponsor number 2, Aten long beaked echidna. So I've got a trivia question for you guys once we go through this. This is rediscovered after 60 years, last seen in 1961. Lived in the Cyclops Mountains. This isn't the only creature we've got coming from the Cyclops Mountains today. I can tell you guys that. Which are near the cities of Sentani and Japura in the Indonesian province of Papua. First described from a single damaged species in the 1960s. So all they had was a damaged skeleton then, Cynthia?
I guess so. Maybe this reminds me of those things where we had, just one example of something, but it seems like the dodo that was extinct, and then it seems like it creeps closer. This is another one to keep your eye on, because maybe there'll be a whole bunch more of them. The history may change. So yeah, I think there was just that damaged skeleton. But maybe it wasn't much more than a skeleton. I don't think it was a taxidermy,
Right.
Recreation or anything like that.
Because it said it was damaged, so.
Yeah.
And just having that specimen alone to go on, they found this thing 60 years later. Long-beaked echidna is a monotreme, which is a distinct group of egg-laying mammals that include the platypus. How convenient.
What are the odds we'd have both of these show up in such spectacular fashion? In the same time frame.
It ain't white, but it's still interesting that it'd be in the same species, right?
The protector is working on the job.
Exactly. Bringing
I
things
love it.
Another Lazarus animal back.
Yes.
Since the platypus came up, let's go to Joyce Box in the chat, who says, then why do we say octopi? Are you aware of that one? I wasn't.
Octopus and octopi.
Yeah. So it's, I guess it just doesn't depend on the PUS at the end, huh?
Good question. You've stumped the panel. I don't know.
Good question. I wish I had a better answer.
Should we roll the video?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
What they said.
Spoiler alert.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
We'll get to the next one, I promise, folks.
You had a
We'll
trivia
not let that
question.
one slip.
But before we, but Jerry, what about the trivia question?
So the trivia question. What popular character is an echidna?
I have no idea.
I'll even make it easier. What popular video game character is an echidna?
So it's not like Mickey Mouse. There's no echidna character I can think of. No Mickey echidna.
If anybody remembers Sonic the Hedgehog, you may remember Knuckles. Knuckles is an echidna.
Knuckles the echidna.
I had no idea.
Yep, the big yellow one.
Wow. No, that's new to me.
I found that out when the Sonic movie came out. Up until that point, even I didn't know that. So there's that.
Well, I'm glad the echidna's back. This is great. The long-beaked echidna. So it's got a
Rose
long
said
nose.
Alf. Good answer, Rose. Wasn't Alf, though. That was a good guess.
Alf was an alien, right?
Alf was an alien. Alien life form. Alf.
Yeah.
And with that said, we've got the albino platypus. Then we've got the albino platypus's cousin, the long-beaked echidna. Next. I told you we wouldn't let this one slide. There's no way we could let this one slide. Shrimps that live in trees? You've got to be kidding me. A new species of terrestrial shrimp. A new species. Keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Surely we haven't jumped to a new reality. No, not at all. Found in the soil and in the trees of the Cyclops Mountains once again. Discovered by the same group we just talked about with the echidna. This shrimp belongs to a lineage that is normally found on the seashore. And it was an enormous surprise to the team when it was discovered living hundreds of meters up high in the slopes of the mountains. Also known as lawn shrimp. Apparently this wasn't as new as you think they are. Check this out. Lawn shrimp, ladies and gentlemen, that's really a thing. Native Americans roasted them over coals and ate them like popcorn. You heard that right. Lawn shrimp and springtails, these are actually terrestrial crustaceans, closely related to lobsters, crab, and shrimp. When boiled, they're said to turn red and have flavors similar to their sea-abiding relatives. What? So we've got shrimp that are living on land now? Is that right?
Yeah, not just land, but they go into the trees.
This is totally new for me. It's like, how would you hunt and catch them? And why aren't people talking about throw another lawn shrimp on the Barbie? You know? This is really weird. I guess they're small, so maybe it would slip through the cracks on the barbecue, but still.
Maybe they'll just crawl up on her themselves.
I don't know. It sounds like this was such a surprise to the researchers, yet it was known about. So I
By
think
the
this
Native
is
Americans.
that is
nonetheless.
interesting. Yeah. So
Maybe
some
it was a
people have
surprise to find it way up at that elevation or something. It's weird.
I've just never heard of this at all. Just to
Right.
begin with, anywhere on anybody's lawn. Certainly not my lawn. I would have noticed.
Red Cap Goblin says the dial has been turned past stupid to extreme absurdity. I don't think we've hit extreme yet, but we're definitely close to it on the dial. That's for sure.
You know, I want to add something interesting about lawn shrimp, because I just typed into Google just to, like, for entertainment purposes, like, is there a pesticide for lawn shrimp? You know, on your lawn? And this is what it says. It says no chemical treatment is required or effective. Reduced watering of the garden will prevent them from wandering into homes, and dead or dying amphipods are best removed with a broom or vacuum cleaner.
Oh my god!
If you wander into your home, put that on the floor with another lawn shrimp.
If I wander into my home, I see a floor full of shrimp. My first thought is lunch.
Oh my god! Yeah, they're called lawn prawns.
Wow. This could be the stuff of nightmares for some people.
I'll tell you the slide. Okay, these are the most normal slides of the deck so far. So it gets a little wacky from
It
here.
only gets worse from here, folks.
Shall we move on?
Shall we continue, ladies and gentlemen? Up next, we have
onward.
not only shrimp climbing up out the water, ladies and gentlemen, we've got fish perching in trees. You heard that right. The climbing perch is perching in a tree, which is found in South Asia, is remarkable for its habit of taking to the land, no joke, climbing palm trees in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and China. It even walks some distance across country in search of better habitat. I don't know if you could put walk and fish in the same sense. I'm not sure that actually qualifies as walking, maybe flopping. The species has a special adaptation of its gills, which allow it to absorb atmospheric oxygen. Can survive on land up to 6 days. Who needs a fishing pole? Just walk up and grab the thing. Their method of terrestrial locomotion uses the gill plates as supports as the fish pushes itself using its fins and tail.
Oh, I got to see this.
Video, please.
We've got 2 videos.
What?
I'm so confused. There's more. What? But what?
They go in the palm trees. The video's a little choppy for me, but
It's just you.
we get the gist of it.
Looks like little feet. Their flippers are
Yeah.
feet. Wow.
Wow.
No one
They
said
really
they were good at
blend in
staying
really
in
well.
the tree. What in the world? Why palm trees, I wonder?
Wow.
Yeah, now that's one video. There's a second video.
And this, oh, go ahead.
She's climbing a tree. crab's like, this is my territory. I'm a climbing tree crab.
Looks like me on the beach.
Looks like the missing link.
Actually, what somebody in the chat said.
Oh yeah.
It's like the missing links coming back from land to sea, or sea to land, I mean.
And I would remember this because of the obvious pun, to be perched in a tree.
Right,
I would have,
being perched. Yeah.
yeah, a perch climbing a tree. Wow.
Yeah, so what's interesting too is like I didn't believe this too when I saw this. I'm like, and who knows, maybe those videos are like, I don't know, but you can go to like, not that you want to trust everything Wikipedia says, but if anything, they're not going to be supportive of crazy stuff like this. Yeah, so it's a thing. You could go type in climbing perch and it comes up, and information about them and how they live for up to 6 days outside of water. So, and they're known to climb like palm trees is what their preferred climbing thing is. So I don't know.
This is remarkable. It seems like an indication of, it seems like a signal to be adaptable, to be ready for anything, to be prepared, to be flexible, to be resilient. And just because something looks impossible or you've never heard of it, maybe these are the times for such enterprises to take flight. It seems like it's we're in a transition threshold phase. This is totally new for me.
I would agree.
Wasted Millennial says, not gonna lie, this seems fake.
Something fishy about this.
Smart fish.
For sure.
Let's see.
Where's my money tree?
So we've now got a lawn shrimp that climbs trees. We've got a perch that climbs trees, and both are completely new.
We've got a perched perch.
Red Cap Goblin says cats will end them.
Right?
Yeah, I started taking out cats. I'm really going to be scared.
Wow.
So what else do we have, guys?
I think we got another underwater one.
Survey says golden horseshoe crab. So you're right. This was another underwater one. Won this year's Wildlife Photographer of the Year. I hope the photographer won and not the creature. Lauren Balest, French underwater photographer and marine biologist, captured the striking scene in the protected waters of Pangatalan, let me try that again, islands in the Philippines. Horseshoe crabs have existed for more than 100 million years. Humans harvest them for their unique blue blood, which is used in the development of vaccines, despite a synthetic alternative to the blood-derived testing ingredient called Limulus amoebocyte lysate, or LAL, which I'm sure a lot of us have heard of, was invented decades ago.
Yeah, so we have a golden, a very interesting golden animal, and yeah, actually that their blue blood is the most. I think the most. They make it into a powder. It's the most expensive or powder or ingredient or something, and there are companies that just specialize in harvesting the blue blood from them for testing purposes. So.
Let's do a shout out to Betty Smiley for the super sticker. Thank you so much, Betty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So awesome.
$2 super sticker says cool.
Thank you.
You're cool, Betty. We appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to support us, you can. We are a 501c3 organization. We exist solely on your support. If you would like to super chat, super sticker, or even join our Patreon, we would very much appreciate that. By the way, for those that join Patreon, you actually get a very special green room episode every month that we record before the show. And the only place you're going to see that is on Patreon. So you guys go over, check that out. Make sure you sign up with us. We would very much appreciate that. We are totally, fully funded and supported by you guys, the community. So we're only able to do what we do because of the help given by you.
And that link to Patreon, it's also to our website. It's on our YouTube channel and also in the description on this video.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cynthia.
Yes.
And it's also in the chat right now. Thank you, Heather. That is awesome. And big shout out to our producer, Heather, backstage. She does an amazing job keeping up with everything.
Absolutely.
But yeah, another golden animal here. This is really intriguing. We've seen less and less golden animals in the last couple months, so I'm glad to see them returning to the slide deck.
And something about this, the gold and the white, they both seem like they go opposite of the direction one would expect for camouflage and animals wanting to hide themselves. So when we see this golden horseshoe crab, it sort of stands out. I don't think it's blending in. I don't know what color these usually are, but I'd expect black or gray or something rock-like. Gold is not going to, I mean, this gold stands out to me. I don't think there's a lot of gold in the ocean, except unless there's been a whole bunch of treasure that's spilled or something, but usually not.
Generally speaking, you don't find a lot of gold down there.
Right. And so this is a great sign of the golden timeline again. And we definitely keep seeing gold animals coming in and love it. Love it when they do.
I fully agree. We are definitely headed for the golden timeline. And the only way to get there, ladies and gentlemen, I know you guys are looking around the world going, how in the heck can they say this? There's so much crazy in the world. Well, order out of chaos. Just like the bad guys believe. There has to be a breaking down to be a rebuilding. To be a good timeline, we have to get rid of the bad in the timeline, right?
Even if it looks a bit daffy or daft, right?
Right. Just don't let it scare you. As scary as it looks, just don't be scared. Have faith. And I think those are good words to live by for any time. Next, sponsor on the screen.
Oh, speaking of Daff.
Speaking of Daffy, you couldn't have timed that any better. Daffy is based on an actual type of duck, right, Chris?
It is a loon, and a lot of people don't
That's
know
not a
that.
loon, is it? That can't be a loon, right?
You mean Daffy?
No,
the
one on
one
the right.
Is that a loon, Chris? Are we looking at two loons
Yes.
here? I mean, we got four loons on this side, but on the picture.
We're all little loons. But yeah, so even my last name, Anatra, in Italian means duck. So I'll say that I'm the expert on this slide. But I always remember loons being completely black with the white band around the neck, just like Daffy Duck, part of Looney Tunes. And Looney Tunes appears to have gotten its name from Daffy Duck, who's known as a loon. Besides, it's a funny name, Looney Tunes. So for me, it was a Mandela effect about 6 months ago when just their head stayed black and the rest of their body became black and white. That was like a really big Mandela effect for me, because that's not what I remember at all. It was a black duck. It was all black except the white band, just like Daffy. And then I'm looking at the loon again, and it's got like, they all have these green bands around their neck. And that green was like never there before. It was literally never there before. And I've talked to people. I talked to a friend, and she, grew up in the cottage country area of Canada, where there's lakes and there's loons on the lakes, and you hear them at night. They have that beautiful loon call. And, this was not a loon that she remembers, not a loon that I remember. So what's going on here in the reality? So I don't know if anyone else knows about the loons and remembers the color structure of them. But yeah, so when I saw this, I'm like, wow, a green band now? What else is going to change?
Well, there's some symbolic messaging here in the green color, because when we look at this whole idea of moving from the fourth world, like the Hopi talk that say we're in the fourth world now, we're going into the fifth, we're at the threshold of that. So if you look at it chakra by chakra, because I love looking at it that way, the fourth world, the fourth chakra is the heart center. The color would be green. And then we're moving into the fifth, the throat chakra, where anything you speak or think is manifest. It's like the age of manifestation is what we're moving into. But to get there, we need to bring heart-centeredness up into the throat. So we can make this, to me, this is a very strong message. Like, we can do this. We'll do it great when you bring love and, the heart-centered wisdom that hopefully we've attained in the last 12,000 years, and bring it up to that throat center. Then we can easily, smoothly make it through this convergence of timelines and into this like a waterfall crash into the next fifth age, and we'll do it fine. We'll be fine. But you got to stay with your heart. Don't say words or think thoughts that are not heart-based. To me, that's what the Loon is showing. And if you don't, then it's crazy. And then it's just all crazy stuff.
I like that interpretation. This isn't the first time the Loon's been on the show with us, though, is it?
Not this particular. I haven't seen this Loon before. Chris mentioned black and white. We saw that.
Yeah. So the black and the white, I was interpreting that as the merging of our lightest self and shadow self could be represented with that. And by the way, so this is like off to the side a little bit. I've been like eating raw onions lately. Okay. Ugh. Which is really, I don't normally like want to have like a white onion that's really like spicy and eat it raw. And I was talking to my friend Sean, and I'm like, Sean, why do you think that is? And it's like, oh, when people are attracted to eating like raw onions, that means they're in the process of integrating their lightest self and their darkest self. And something about eating the onions helps with that. So with the Loon, black and white, like, it's just there's all these symbologies, like no matter how you look at it, whether it's possibly the types of foods you're, attracted to, or, whatever's going on personally for you. So if anyone else has been eating raw onions, please comment in. I do brush my teeth afterwards because it could be, but yeah, it's just like a really interesting phenomenon for me.
I guess it's all right if you don't have a date, right?
Yeah, yes, or a date that also ate raw onions, then you're okay.
Oh yeah, there you go. That makes it even.
Or had garlic.
It would be interesting to see if it changed. Did we have a picture of it on the older episode where we brought it up? Because I remember you talking about the Loon.
I wish I remember what episode that was.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out because it might be black and white now, which I don't know. Spoiler alerts, but we'll get to what I'm referring to in a little bit. Let's see. Rose says, nice interpretation, Cynthia. She also goes on to say, the Loon is a mysterious bird, very shy. You don't see them every day. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Rose. Ariana says, I am really enjoying animals becoming more colorful. It's so lovely. And I totally agree. Even with the Loon we just saw there, you could see that little bit of iridescence where the sun was shining on the feathers, it's beautiful.
Yes.
Raw red onions? Oh my God, those are worse. We got to cut those at work. I cry every time.
Melinda Iverson. I love eating raw red onions.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Melinda. Those are even hotter, right?
No, they're good. They can be good on salad or in salsa, like in California.
Oh yeah, they're kind of sweet, aren't they?
Yeah, they're sweet. So they're fine if you eat them. Yeah, the red ones are crunchy, juicy, and sweet.
Yeah.
See, on a pizza or something or on a salad, like you said, I can see that, but I'm thinking like onion, like an apple,
Well, the red onion's a good one to start with if you try that. Yeah.
Shane, you have a request in the chat.
Uh-oh. Oh, Adriana. Sorry, I can't roll my tongue very well.
Ariana.
Ariana.
All right, folks. Having a great time here. Thank you guys so much for joining.
There you go, Jerry. You got it.
You guys.
Okay, so after the Loon, what's next?
So next up on the list, ladies and gentlemen, we have board member updates. That's right. How is everybody's month? Man, it's been a month of thankfulness, that's for sure. Cynthia, how was your month?
It's been awesome. Yeah, I talked a little bit in the Green Room Patreon about some unexpected visitors that showed up for Thanksgiving, which were a lot of fun. So big shout out to Patreons. You'll get to see that. Basically, just sort of an interdimensional visit from my local elves. So, but there's all the details in the Patreon. So that happened. I'm excited to tell you that I had the first master class with Paula Harris, and I'll be doing another one next month actually January, so a couple months, with Jeff Makata and Paula Harris. If Paula's name sounds familiar, she was the co-author of the book Trinity, about the very first crash before Roswell that was widely acknowledged. And so she co-authored that book with Jacques Vallée. And now she's taken all of her UFO information archives and gifted it to the Rice University campus, where they're collecting all of this amazing stuff about UFOs and consciousness. And she's now moving into this new chapter of her life to raise consciousness on the planet, because that's, now we've got disclosure. It's being discussed in the Congress, in the United States, in Mexico, all around the world. So, there's still a scuffle going on. There's still controversy. But having said all that, it's the point in time for IMEC, for consciousness, for what I do, reality shifters, what Chris is doing, the quantum businessman, what Jerry's been doing all along, tracking UFO, now with us with the Mandela Effect, and Shane, definitely. You've been studying all of the context stuff and ET and viewing. So this is a very exciting time. It is about raising consciousness, and I'll be doing a live event in May of next year with Paula Harris and Jeff Makata. He's a hypnotist and a frequent UFO viewer. Both Paula and Jeff are well versed in UFOs, ETs, and consciousness. So in January, what we'll be talking about is the Schumann resonance and how that ties in. And then in May, we'll be doing this 3-day special event about raising consciousness and just, co-creating this new world that we're moving into, which is really what IMEC is all about too. So I'm sure if you love IMEC, this might be of interest. You can check it out through my website. I'll have the links, or you can go to Paula's website, which is Starworks USA. I think it's .org. I think that's right. Anyway, Starworks USA. And she does a lot of events. She's got one that's remote viewing coming up in December. And that'll be with somebody here local in California, Russell Targ. He's been to, I've gone to events at his house because he's local, and he's just a world-class remote viewer with decades of experience. So fascinating individual. And I think the thing to do is keep an eye on Starworks USA, because you'll see a lot of good information coming through there. Maybe about UFOs, but it looks like we're moving forward. And it's like, okay, we've got disclosure. Now what? What are we doing? So I think that's the biggest news. I've also got in my newsletter, like I always have, excellent stories. I don't think this will show up too well, but one person submitted a video and a photo of a cardinal that got sort of teleported inside the air conditioning unit. Fortunately, they didn't turn it on, but they were just walking around their home in Florida. And this is submitted by Laura. She and her husband were just astonished, like, what do you do when that happens? It's not like a thing that happens. So they called, I guess, a repair person, or maybe her husband figured it out, but somehow they got the bird released before it panicked too much. There was no way for the cardinal to get inside the air conditioning unit. But
if there were, it would happen all the time, I guarantee you.
Right. It's like not a thing, and nobody had tampered with it. Nobody's putting a pet cardinal. It's a wild bird. You don't just capture a wild bird and then put it inside someone's air conditioning unit. Why? So the whole thing was quite interesting. Totally reminds me of a teleportation. And I hear a lot of those stories in the last 23 years that I've been studying the reality shift Mandela Effect phenomenon. So that's basically my big news. And I think it's pretty...
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find Cynthia's newsletter at
realityshifters.com.
realityshifters.com. Also on Paula Harris. I love Paula. I think she's amazing. I've never met the lady. I would love to have the ability to meet that lady. She is absolutely incredible researcher. Like you said, I come from the ufology world. I come from those studies. So she's well known over there. And for those who may or may not know, little piece of ufology trivia, she was the last person to conduct an interview with Colonel Corso.
Wow.
So, absolutely amazing.
That gives me goosebumps when you say that. I'm just like,
right? Gives me goosebumps saying it.
And what came out of that interview is life-changing, world-changing. So people need to, if you haven't checked out what Paula's doing, she's written so many books, brought the wealth of, like you said, Jerry, she brought translations of Italian UFO research into English. It's
She
amazing.
translated a ton of
Yep.
case files from Italian to English.
Yeah.
Really, really well done. She's taken a lot of time in the community. It blows my mind. She's given everything to the university, though. That's amazing.
Well, it's time to move on. I think that's a strong signal. We're looking at signals these days. We look for it with our, Lazarus species, white animals, gold animals. We can see it in the humans too. And what are we doing? It's time.
Speaking of which, Melinda asked the great question in the chat. She says, "Wonder what the message was with the Cardinal Aircon episode."
Wow, cardinals are so special to me. And
Me too,
Candace Craw Goldman, that's her big bird. She's like, when I think cardinals, I think of her because she had that experience where she rescued a baby cardinal and then it showed up later. They're wild birds, but it found her later. And when she was telling me that story, then I had the rose that manifested in the Boulder Dushanbe tea house remanifested that very day into my purse in a place that if it had done that, it would have been crushed. Like I'd been using that purse constantly. And suddenly there's the rose that had vanished for several months, reappeared the day that I'm talking to Candace about these cardinals. So there's a cardinal rose connection. They're both red. It's a symbol of love. To me, it's a strong indicator of rebirth, reactivation. We don't have a phoenix bird on Earth, but not a real one that I know of. But to me, the cardinal is like a symbol for family connections, love, regeneration, and rebirth. And that's the feeling I got. Air conditioning is interesting because it's like hot, cold. So you're looking at extremes, and it's like black and white, like moving from that place of kind of like the Loon. It was black and white. Now it's got green. An air conditioner, it's going hot and cold, and then suddenly you've got this symbol of birds or spirit, life, inspiration, and regeneration, like I said, showing up in this realm of black and white, which is very mechanical. So it's like nature showing up inside the machine.
Yeah.
It's like this is the time of removing ourselves from the machine. We're doing it.
Yeah.
Great.
It is almost like a big bird cage too. Like,
yeah, it looks like it, but I've never heard of such a thing happening.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
A lot of times too, when like certain animals will cross our path or we'll have an interaction with them, when I tune into it, it's usually they have messages for us, like usually messages from Earth. So that might be something that people might want to tune into because that cardinal may have had like special messages for her, and then and kind of go to that level too, because nothing is random. Literally nothing is random.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's red, so root chakra.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. That sounds like you've got one heck of a update there, Cynthia. You got a whole lot going on and a whole lot coming up.
Yeah.
That is incredible. By the way, I can't tell you how jealous I am. I would love to meet Paula. That is so awesome.
You got to come. You should be there. Be there in May.
I'll see what I can do. That's coming off the Vegas trip, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to or not.
Maybe it'll fit in somehow. Yeah.
If the universe wills it. Christopher Anatra, you know him as the quantum businessman. How was your month, sir?
My month has been pretty busy, pretty active. Just more recently, yesterday, I filmed another episode of the Symphony of Realities. It's Act 10. It's called Prison Break. So it has an interesting name because what is Earth? It's been described as many different things: a school, a playground, a DNA farm, a stage. Is in all the worlds a stage. Some people have described it as a prison. What does that mean? Is the prison break already in progress, so to speak? So I broach that subject. I talk about light language as well, because I do some special light language in there. And I get into how and we were talking about this earlier, when it comes to languages, like the spoken language is all tones, right? It's how we tone. So when it comes to light language, it's special toning. I should also call it star language because it's a lot of times it's not just like there's different words you can use for the same type of thing in different species throughout the galaxies. There's literally trillions of different types of star languages that are out there, but it's also telepathic. So, because all species have a telepathic ability. So when you're using your vocal cords, your voice box, your tongue, and so forth, you're actually projecting a message. And like usually it's a telepathic type message as well. And I feel that more and more people are going to start, not talking light language, understanding it, it's high frequency. And it's also something where it could separate, like as we have the bifurcation of the timelines, wouldn't it be something where, because language divides us right now. So if somebody speaks French and I speak English, it's kind of hard to communicate unless we know each other's language. But maybe in a higher frequency Earth, we just automatically can start speaking this way to each other. And it's both telepathic and it's enhanced through the vocal cords. So I get into that topic. And then I talk about one more thing. They're called forced walkouts. So before I've made videos. One of my gameplay videos talked about the concept of walk-ins. So people that watch that and have, an understanding of that will know what a walk-in is. But then what's a forced walkout? And I talk about what that means. And a forced walkout is when, let's say, an actor on the stage overplays their part usually to the negative. So there's that whole concept that I explore as well. And this video will probably be out. It'll probably take a few weeks. It might not be till the beginning of January because of all the editing and stuff that Heather, our dear producer, does for me. And she's really busy with some of the other projects too. So hopefully in about a month or so, that'll be released. So that'll give people that watch my videos something to look forward to. It's a very interesting one. So.
And you're doing interviews with various people too, right? Because I see these pop up from time to time.
Yeah.
Anything in the works or anything recent? They're great.
Yeah, we have another interview planned with someone from Poland. Her name is Aluja, and has all this really advanced information about the reality and how things work and the guardians. And a lot of the things she talks about are dealing with Aten. So some people may have heard that name before. So we're going to talk to her. That's going to come up in a couple of weeks for that one. But yeah,
nice.
We're always planning that too. But I've been so busy. Like I'm doing all this traveling. I've got my big birthday trip at the end of December, going to France and Italy for that. So there's just like nonstop things going on, and my business constantly needs me. So it's definitely doing the juggling act here. So
you're irreplaceable. We adore you. So thank you for all you do.
And you do so much with IMEC. It is sincerely appreciated, sir.
Yeah, like hosting the whole event. That was amazing. Thank you. Again.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Chris hosted the last event this year, in 2023 in September at our headquarters in Connecticut, as well as his headquarters too. So, yeah, we really appreciate that, Chris. Next year, ladies and gentlemen, we know it's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. That's right. We got more information coming up on that as we carry on through the months. But I can tell you it will be in Nashville. So mark your calendars. We'll give you a date to mark it with later. Next up on the list, before I talk myself into a circle here, Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence. Save me, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, I've been just busy doing my thing, helping people really one-on-one mainly right now and doing other work. And as far as the channel, I do have an upcoming live show on the 9th with Sun Psychic Gene. We'll be taking, requests from the live chat. That's always really fun to connect with the community. So you guys have that to expect on Saturday, December 9th. That's going to be a week earlier than I originally stated. In case you heard it was going to be on the 16th, it's actually the 9th. And other than that, just, winding down for the Christmas holidays. I'm going to see my trucker buddies, Daryl and Pam, out in Arizona for the New Year. So expect some videos with that as well. So, yeah, that's about it.
Well, that is awesome, my friend. I'm glad you got a lot going on there. So you're still doing the therapy, right?
Beyond Quantum Healing. Yeah, that.
Yes.
Yeah, and just just perspective chats as well. Sometimes people just need someone to talk to that understands. I think we can all relate with people not understanding when we're talking about a lot of what we talk about in our community.
Right.
And then people will have their individual things happening, and they just really need to have a conversation, a high vibe conversation with another person. So that's always a blast.
It's cool when you share some of that, like that video you did with the messages that are coming through these beyond quantum healing sessions.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Like with the one with the AI information that came through, that was so cool. And then I was also getting my own downloads about how AI is not a bad thing; it's actually a good thing, and it can really, just like anything else that I think there's an old saying: "What the devil means for evil, God can turn to good." And I love that, because so many times you can see how the internet was used as this control mechanism, but listen how we're able to turn that around, even with these episodes we do here, just shining out that light and that positivity. And it's the same way with AI. It's going to be able to make a lot of sense of, what we haven't been able to make sense of pretty easily.
I agree. Well, I don't know if I agree on the AI part, but I agree that it's interesting. Put it like that.
All right.
But Shane, where can they find your work, sir?
UOTF.net. UOTF.net.
Shane Robinson, ladies and gentlemen, unbiased and on the face. What were you saying, sir? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, if you click on the contact tab, that'll give you information on connecting with me.
Perfect. So if you guys need to have a perspective chat or want to take part in his services, or just want to drop Shane a line and tell him how awesome of a dude he is and what great job he's doing. We don't get a lot of those, by the way, folks. If you want to do that, by all means, check out uotf.net.
Thank you, sir.
All right, moving on to our next. I'm kidding.
That's it. The end of the line.
My month has been really, really good. I had an incredible Thanksgiving. Believe it or not, I ordered a meal from Publix. The full meal, fully pre-cooked. And I know a lot of people say, well, that's not traditional. You're right. But it was a lot cheaper. For 10 people, to feed 10 people, it cost me $75.
Wow.
You can't do that going to the store and buying the stuff. Trust me, I bought a mac and cheese to add to it because that's the one thing it didn't have. That cost me $30 just by itself. There's no way I could put together the meal I got for the price I paid. So I had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Like I said, I think the food was great. I had a great time with my roommates and friends and had the day off. So it was really nice. As far as anything else goes, you guys can find us will find me over at the rippinrabbithole.com, RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. Tonight, we are going to be talking about crop circles over there on the Way Out Wednesday Dark Wolf's Den radio show. Tomorrow night is the Freedom Report News. We go through the news stories of the week and the freedoms that are being messed with. So check that show out. We do appreciate you guys over there. You can also catch us on Rumble at Rippin' Rabbit Hole on Rumble. So I am the Dark Wolf's Den show for those that don't know. Jerry the Dark Wolf. So I've been doing it about 4 years now. I think we're in season 4 right now, if I'm not mistaken. So just a year longer than I've been doing IMEC. It's absolutely incredible. It's lots of fun. We're there every week, twice a week. We've got the most shows on the network right now. So we are the network leader right now. But ladies and gentlemen, check us out over there. That's where you're going to find me every week in between these IMEC mini conferences. And yeah, I can't really think of anything crazy or exciting I got coming up. A wonderful Christmas. I hope everybody has a wonderful and amazing Christmas. Are we on before or after Christmas this year?
That's a good question. Looks like it's the 20th, so it's before.
So it's before. So we'll be able to wish everyone a Merry, Merry Christmas. But for those that may not be here, then Merry Christmas to you guys. And that's my update, folks. So
on behalf of IMEC, I want to make sure we claim you because you really pulled us together in 2019. So you get a 4-year credit with us, even if it was what we called the West Coast Mandela Effect Conference. It was the beginning of what we now know as IMEC. So I think that counts personally.
I will take that. I will. Well, I'm just going by we're on season 3 and I'm on season 4 over there. You know what I mean?
Well, we
So
did
for
our
the
in-person
shows,
thing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we released it as video. So I'm still going for it. I think we can claim it.
Still 4 years. I'll take it. I will
you.
take it. And ladies and gentlemen, I actually have for those that also may not know, I have an official title here at IMEC. The team always wanted to call me founder. The problem is we're all 4 founders. So I refuse to accept the singular title. So they got together one day, folks, and they had a meeting and they had a vote. And they voted me the official title of Father of IMEC. A title which I happily accepted. But yeah, you guys are amazing. We've been together for about 4 years doing this, and I could not have asked for a more incredible team. I love every one of you guys.
Yeah, a little more than 4 years now. So yeah, we love you too.
Yeah. And hopefully for eternity.
Yes, always.
And what are we here to do? We're here to talk Mandela Effects, ladies and gentlemen. What do we have up next on our list? Let's get into the scud clouds. What is a scud? I thought those were missiles, not clouds.
That's what I thought. I know.
SCUD apparently is an acronym standing for Stratocumulus Under Deck. What about over the deck? What's it going to be under the deck? No. Scud clouds. Okay, that works real well. Scud clouds are often found behind the gust front of a thunderstorm and associated with the outflow of a storm. When you have warm, moist air that rises over its cooler outflow from the main storm, the air rises, cools, and condenses as these air masses meet. This can sometimes form a connecting cloud that gets sucked up into the main storm's updraft, which can almost resemble a giant tentacle coming out of the sky. Chris, you had a vision about this?
Yeah, so this is really interesting because this was 2 Mondays ago. I woke up in the morning. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't dreaming at all. It wasn't a dream. And I closed my eyes and I had this vision of a large group of people standing in this area that was kind of like a semicircle. And behind them were these buildings. They looked a little futuristic, but they weren't skyscrapers. They were maybe 12 to 16 stories high. And this giant portal opened in the sky. And then these type of clouds. So the scud clouds started forming underneath that portal. And so, which kind of makes sense because if a portal is opening or there's some kind of atmospheric condition that could cause this, it could also cause it for when a portal opened. And some interesting things about that. And one of the interesting things is that, so one of the things I talk about is, the Atlantis fall and how basically portals were being opened into what I call the antiverse, and caused all this chaos. Their science had advanced to a certain point where they understood how to do it, and there are certain factions that were causing it and other factions that didn't want it to happen. This particular scene somehow happened in the area we now call the Bermuda Triangle, and that area sunk into the sea, etc. So I was getting that there was a resolution, there was something between now and then that I was able to see that maybe those portals, at least these ones in the sky, didn't open like they did in other timelines. And I was also getting something interesting too, that in that lifetime, because I feel this is something from my Akashic records that I actually observed, in that particular lifetime, I was wearing the same skin suit or avatar. It would have been this same version of me. And I haven't used this version a lot. So yes, so there was that connection, and I felt that something was being solved. So maybe the portal's closed or whatever, but I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things that we're really being placed on brand new timelines, brand new high frequency timelines for a lot of us, especially everyone that's attracted to this type of information, that wants to be on the higher vibration. We want to go into the golden age. We want to experience the renaissance of humanity, all these great inventions, these things that we already did, coming back to us and so forth. So yeah, and it was one of those visions,
like I'm watching TV. It didn't last for more than 10 seconds, but it was like very clear. And then when this came through, the scud cloud thing, I was like, that's what I saw that was forming under the portal. So yeah, I wanted to mention that.
And how big was it under the portal? Was it?
It was hard. Yeah, it was really big, and then there were other smaller portals that were opening next to it. So it was one big portal, and then other smaller portals.
The scud cloud, how many feet tall and wide was it, roughly?
Yeah, so if you look at the first picture, it was probably those type of things were forming, and I was thinking, are those creatures coming through? Like in the vision, I'm like, what is that? Is that like a monster or some kind of creature coming through? But then with this Mandela effect, it kind of reminded me that it could have been just these scud clouds because it looked exactly like that. So, yeah.
That's interesting. So it was just a portal, nothing came through it or went out, or
yeah, the vision ended, like the scud clouds were forming underneath it, and then the vision ended. So I'm just reporting what I'm seeing.
That first picture reminds me of something like right out of a horror movie, right?
That's what Sage in the chat says. First picture looks like it's alive. It does. It looks like some kind of being, doesn't it?
That's like, for real.
It's kind of like those Dementors or something from Harry Potter.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
There's something weird going on.
Yeah.
Or Stranger Things.
Right.
But yeah, very interesting. So these are a real thing. These are scud clouds, and these are something that I had heard of, but never really, you know what I mean? Wasn't really a thing for me.
Right. I'd not even heard of them. Only the, like you said, scud missiles.
But then again, it could have been on like Eva's show Once Upon a Timeline that I heard of it, right? So right, next up we have, okay, folks, Starry Night, Van Gogh. Is it Starry Night or is it the Starry Night? Well, it turns out the Starry Night is an oil-on-canvas painting by Dutch post-impression painter Vincent van Gogh. Painted in June 1889, it depicts the view from the east-facing window of the asylum room at Saint Remy de Provence, just before sunrise, with the addition of an imaginary village. Similar to the maybe it's imaginary now. Similar to the ME of aspiratus clouds, one theory does suggest that they are formed when mammatus clouds descended into the area. I think we got confused here. Oh, never mind. I see. Causing wave-like movement. So we've got two pictures here.
Yes.
One of them is Starry Night or the Starry Night. Chris, what is that second picture?
Yeah, that second picture was taken in New Hampshire. I don't know exactly the date. It was definitely within a year. I think it was like earlier this year. Of these clouds, the aspiratus clouds, that I've never seen before. So to me, there's a lot of interesting things happening with cloud structures of clouds, all different types of, like, that's a common Mandela effect. So a lot of people might remember 4 or 5 different types of clouds. Now there's like 12 or 15 different types of cloud structures. So yeah, so these types of clouds, like they're seeing in New England here, and looks like the one from Van Gogh is probably going to be seen more.
It made the news in California in the San Francisco Chronicle. Within the last month, the aspiratus clouds were photographed off of the coast of California, and it was newsworthy because I think people are also feeling like, what is this? Now, they're not saying, I've never heard of this before, like we are, but they're photographing it and saying, this is, it's newsworthy, it's new. And it's totally new to me. I hadn't seen this at all. And you're right. It really reminds me of what I'd call Starry Night by, this amazing Impressionist painter, Vincent van Gogh. Look, it's got that same undulating movement, and it's so striking, so beautiful, so surreal, but it's in real life and you can photograph it nowadays.
Joyce Box says, I've been seeing these in Alabama too.
Oh, wow.
Wasted Millennium. I agree. So Waste Millennium says that pic to the right looks like some sort of goblin face. I was looking at it too, like I see the eyes. I was trying to figure the mouth out. Right.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't know too, just the name of it. Like, is it Home Depot or the Home Depot? Is it Starry Night or the Starry Night? So I don't remember it being called the Starry Night. I just
don't either.
remember Starry Night.
Right.
Yeah,
Me too.
Rose in the chat says the same thing. It's just Starry Night in my memory, and I totally agree.
Me too.
Totally agree.
Yeah, there's a local supermarket chain here called Fresh Market, and about a year or two ago, it changed to the Fresh Market. So yeah, so the has been popping up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the one particular timeline is insisting it's the only one. Like, this is it. We're locking this one in here.
Could be.
Another, maybe it's an advantage in timeline wars. If you're competing tug of war, like on, different timelines, maybe you can try to lock it in if you say the.
That's actually not a bad idea. That might be how part of that's being played. We lock it into the, we win.
Seems a little infantile, but okay. It might work.
John Adams argued for 3 hours over that word in the Constitution. The word the.
Really?
In front of freedom of speech. Yes, ma'am. So, yeah, it may be that is that important, that word the has that much weight behind it that it could lock in the reality of.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to learn more about that, because that could be a clue. If he argued for 3 hours about it, that he must have some kind of a point.
Yes, it sounds important.
Absolutely. So, yeah, definitely do some research on that. Not going to get into it because it's political, but definitely do some research on it for those that are interested. Next up, we have, ladies and gentlemen, what color is the aurora? Well, of course, it can be many colors, right? It can be greens, the blues, the reds, the yellows, the oranges. Wait, what? October 19th, 2023, orange auroras were seen over Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Auroras can be many colors. Orange is not one of them, ladies and gentlemen. Even according to science, orange is not an accepted color in the auroras. Nevertheless, on October 19th, photographer Harlan Thomas captured these photos. Science has no immediate explanation besides its merging of both red and yellow auras, which, I mean, it's logical. I don't say that I agree with it. It should have happened a lot more often if that's the case, but it's a stretch of logic. Another hypothesis is that from solar activity, the composition of our ionosphere is changing. I'll buy that. Specifically to include more neon gas, which would cause the orange glow. Neon is the fourth most abundant element in the universe. However, it only makes up 0.0018% in volume of Earth's atmosphere. Orange auroras. Cynthia, what do you think about this?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert in the colors, but it does strike me as highly unusual. I know we keep hearing this about the aurora colors. I think we've heard this many times, and it just keeps getting weirder throughout this year and maybe a little bit of last year, that they keep seeing colors that they've never seen before. And I don't know what they're going to see next. That's where my mind goes is, okay, what's next? I don't know.
Are we going to start seeing colors that we haven't got names for?
Maybe it's going to go like infrared, ultraviolet. I don't know. Like what's next? Yeah. Like you said, colors we don't have names for. It's possible.
Shane, what do you think?
I think it's beautiful. I have no idea. I have no idea why. I'm just kind of hoping it like moves its way down the northern hemisphere so that I can enjoy some of these beautiful nighttime colors,
What you said.
Yeah.
I will point out, by the way, orange is the color of warmth, so it would have a connection to love. So
and change.
And change.
Yeah.
So it might be more of a symbolic thing than anything. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a sign of us being able to observe and see more colors, and not just like all kind like neon bright colors.
I've mentioned before, and I've said it in some of my videos, there's this thing called the Lucia light that you can sit under and it flashes. It's just like a white light, but it just flashes at different frequencies. And when you go under that, you see colors that are like neon. It's like you're closing your eyes, right? And it's just flashing at a certain frequency. And you see these amazing colors. So, you've got phenomena that gives you clues about that. Possibly the ionosphere composition of the atmosphere is changing. That could be as well. We talked about how our eyes now have something called cryptochromes, which are magnetic sensors in our eyes. So there's all kinds of things that I think are really going to be important. So, and the orange auroras are just part of that formula for us to figure out the equation of what's going on here.
Cynthia, you were about to say something?
Oh, just change and transformation. But yeah, I like what Chris is saying. I like all this good input on this topic. This will be very interesting.
So what is that
in
light
fact
called again, Chris?
Yeah.
What is that light called again?
It's called a Lucia light.
So I can tell you that I have experienced, ladies and gentlemen, the Lucia light personally. When I went to Connecticut for the conference, Sean set me up in the chair. I can tell you the colors are incredible. The things you see with your eyes closed, the images, the patterns. I say images, it's not like you can make out a human or something, but just the patterns and the swirls. And anybody who's done psychedelics may be more familiar with what I'm talking about. It was a lot like a psychedelic trip without having any psychedelics in my body. It was very, very amazing, very relaxing, very astonishing. So I can validate what Chris is saying. Being under that light has some incredible effects.
Yeah, it puts you in that hypnagogic state. And one time he's now 11, but my youngest son went under it. And he's like, Daddy, I see like this blue sun. It's like a big blue star. And he's like, there's another blue star. And now they're rotating around each other. So sometimes people will actually get like specific visions and they'll see specific things when they're under the Lucia light. And sometimes you just see colors, but you always see something. There's always something that you see when you're under it.
Yeah, it's not just a bright blink, 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 blink. I don't know what it does, but it does something completely different.
Yeah.
And where do you receive the light? Just on your whole body, or do you close your eyes?
Right in the face. You close your eyes and you get it right in the face.
Okay.
Yes. So the light itself is supposed to be like an arm's distance from your head. And it's supposed to be directed towards your head and the area of your pineal gland. And you close your eyes aren't open. And some people afterwards are like, that's really colored lighting. Like, that's no way that was white. And it literally is white. And sometimes when you watch people that are under it, you can see like rainbows form around them. It's really interesting. So sometimes like, I swear I see angels floating around and they say that your angels can come in and repair your light body. They can see the tears and stuff and do the repairs. So it's so fascinating.
I know it increased my aura immensely. I have a friend that can see auras, and I happened to be in conversation with them at the time that I was using the chair. And there was moments that I would like relax my whole body, and she's, wow, I just seen your whole aura just shoot out. What did you just do? Like, it was really affecting the aura big time. So you're right, Chris. It has a different, something with the light frequency really changes reality.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Joe Pulowski. Sorry, Joe. I do apologize. The Lucia light is amazing. A very enjoyable experience. I have to agree, Joe. Absolutely amazing experience. But so if you have a chance, ladies and gentlemen, get yourself a Lucia light. We do not make any money off that whatsoever.
Oh, but they're actually expensive. So you might want to
like stupid high. I know when I asked the price, I decided right then and there that I would not be buying one.
Yeah, or you just go to someone that a lot of people they earn like a living off of having sessions with it. So they might charge like, I don't know, $50 or $100 for like a 40-minute session. And sometimes that might be worth it as well.
There you go. So I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. The first time I ever even heard of something like that, let alone experienced it, was in Connecticut back in September. I was 43 years old when I learned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for those that caught it, yep, that's my real age. Go ahead. Next slide, please. Diagonal half moon. So this is one thing in the Mandela effect that we have noticed early on, was the moon was just not right. Of course, Moneybags came out with the Cheshire moon, but way back years ago, and we still see that all the time, something I never remember seeing as a child. I remember the Cheshire cat being in the sky when I was a kid. Maybe it's just me. But Chris, you said you've seen even more craziness to this, right?
Yeah, I have. So the concept is, for me in my old timeline, like for example, a half moon was always like vertical. It wasn't diagonal. It wasn't horizontal.
Straight up and down.
Yeah, straight up and down. But now
half
you
black,
can see
half
it
white.
Like the letter D, capital letter D.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, and then you've got the Cheshire cat concept, which happens when it's like a quarter moon, for example. So, and I think I might have mentioned this before, but when I was in Mexico, I witnessed this phenomena, and actually I saw it go diagonal to horizontal and then diagonal the other way in one night, like in a matter of hours. It was so unbelievable. And I'm thinking, well, that maybe because I'm in Mexico, maybe because I'm closer to the equator. Then when I come back to Connecticut, it does the same thing. So yeah, so I don't know if anyone else has noticed that the moon is different through its different phases. And if this is new, what this might mean is that there's something that's changed regarding how the moon rotates around the Earth and its orbit. And interestingly, someone I did a podcast with, her name is Sonia from the Tree of Knowledge channel. She recently put out a video about how when she does her remote viewing, she saw that we've been moved to a different quadrant of Earth, so to speak. And so when these type of things happen, things in the sky could change. And yeah, so there's different ways that we can be observing this. But for me, definitely, I don't ever remember the moon being like this before.
This is super trippy, really wild, especially having it change in one night over the course of a few hours. That's big.
So
Yeah, I know.
Go ahead. So Lisa W, all the way back at the very beginning of the stream, says nothing makes sense regarding the moon nowadays. It literally stayed in the same area of the sky for 4 hours last night. I had a witness to it this time.
Whoa. I wonder where that is. So if Lisa's still with us, if she wants to type something in, what part of the world is that? That would be cool.
Yeah, we would love to know that, Lisa, if you're still here.
Well, we have Lisa, but that was Lissa, I believe, earlier.
Oh, Lisa. Okay. Whoever that was. Yeah. Interesting. And it's just mind blowing to have it change, like either stay stationary for a few hours or to make this kind of a change in a few hours.
Oh, she's in Mississippi.
Lissa W. Mississippi, there we go. So I'm in Tennessee. I'm right above you. That is interesting.
You might be able to observe this too, Jerry. Keep an eye on that.
That's what I was
moon.
thinking.
Yeah. But it should be viewable anywhere. I mean, if it's happening there. And Chris, you're saying you're seeing the same similar thing happening in Mexico or in Connecticut. That's a huge planetary difference between those two locations.
Yeah, and the when I saw it do its rotation, we were in Mexico City, and we were in a restaurant that was like on a rooftop in a hotel. So the sky, it was warm, it was hot, the sky was observed. So at the beginning of it, I'm like, oh, look at that diagonal moon. And then as the night went on, it went horizontal, then it went the other way. And I'm like, I just, I should have taken pictures of it along the way, but I wasn't thinking of that. But yeah, so there's definitely something new about where we are right now in this reality. No matter how you look at it, there's interesting things that are going on, and clues like the moon. So some people might say, oh, the moon's always been like this, and maybe for them it has, but not for me.
Not for me either. Yeah.
Same here. How about the moon being out during the day, like noon, right? Have you guys experienced this a lot more?
From time to time. So it does seem like that's kind of surprising. That's one I noticed years and years ago, but it did seem surprising at that time, and nobody else seemed to be thinking anything of it. It was way before the terminology. For you too? It was like way before 2009. Like way. How about? Do you remember when you first saw that?
So for me, it was like sometime after 2012. But I'm looking at the sky one day, and I'm like, the moon's out. That doesn't make any sense. And I was totally shocked because my whole life I'd never seen the moon out during the daytime. But now it's like a common occurrence.
I did even point it out to people, and they thought it was normal. Like that's always that way. They looked at me. Okay, this happened to you guys too.
Yes, absolutely.
And I thought maybe this is just me. I don't know. Oh my gosh. How about you, Shane?
For me, it's like it's always been. So I guess I got the download on that one.
No problem. Don't worry.
Now, I remember it being like even when I was a kid, but like you said, even back then, people were like, oh, yeah, that's normal. No, it's not.
No. I know. Talk about gaslighting. But there was no term for Mandela Effect, no community. Internet wasn't big back when I was noticing it. I just thought, what the heck? But yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it has to do with like that concept of the 4 quadrants of Earth. So maybe the different quadrants will have, first quadrant never has the moon during the day, and the second one may not have it, but the third and the fourth do. So there's all different ways this could work.
When you talk about quadrant, Chris, because the Earth is a 3D object, it's an XYZ space. What what kind of quadrant are we talking about here? I'm just curious.
For me, that's not my information, so
okay.
I'm kind of just relaying that. But as
are you talking about daily or monthly though? Like, meaning like the quadrants happen in a single 24-hour period or throughout the month?
No, it's the same concept as the geography of Earth changing. So basically, we're on a 4 main, let's say, timeline versions, so to speak. So with the timeline versions, the geography of Earth could change, and then also the rotation of the moon can change as well. So the very dense, low vibrational, we'll call that quadrant 1, would have had the moon the way a lot of us remember it, just having the vertical axis, so to speak, and how it forms from that. Going up to now, we'll call it the 4th quadrant, which also has the sun giving us the most codes than it ever has in any of the other quadrants. So the concept is basically we're in I'll call it a 4th type of timeline, where we're getting more codes coming in from the sun. We see things in the sky that are different. The moon is different, and so forth. Clouds are different, whatever it is. So besides just the geography of the Earth that can change, as you kind of go drift through all the quadrants.
So they're kind of like the quadrants are kind of like timelines. I'm just trying to follow.
Yeah. So Sonia, she does a lot of remote viewing. So for her, it was how she was remote viewing it.
Okay. And
if you watch her channel, like she'll explain more about that and her concept of a snow globe, Earth being like a snow globe, that type of a thing as well. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We all have our different perspectives to add to the story of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Awesome.
Which is what makes it fascinating, because with enough perspectives, we can figure out the truth.
Yeah. That's what we want to get to. Age of truth.
Here, here. The golden age of truth.
So are we ready to go on to the next slide?
You took the words right out of my mouth, sir. So, Chris, you've done a lot of work with NASA. I say with NASA, with
yes,
working on NASA stories. Let me rephrase that.
Yes, yes.
Whether it be with what was that astronaut's name?
Judith Resnick?
No. The guy that got killed.
Oh, Gus Grissom.
Thank you. Whether it be Gus Grissom and digging into that, or the Challenger, or things like that. So you've got a lot of experience looking at pictures and dealing with these astronauts, right? As far as like doing these stories, right?
Yeah. So, and actually those two, the whole Gus Grissom situation, and specifically the Challenger astronauts, because for me, that's how I kind of teach how timelines work and how we have different timelines of ourselves running everything everywhere all at once, so to speak. So I came across this picture of the Challenger astronauts a couple of days ago, and I'm like, and I've seen this picture before, and they always wore orange, and now they're wearing blue, and I'm like, did they have a costume change? You know, what's going on? Like, I don't remember, you know, the blue uniforms that they would wear. But now everywhere with the Challenger astronauts, they're always wearing blue. And there's a lot of other like NASA missions where they wear blue. Some still wear orange, but a lot of them wear blue that I never saw before. So, you know, the first thing I thought of is like, let me go back to that episode I made for IMEC in 2020, which was concerning about the Space Shuttle Challenger mission and, you know, what actually happened there and how like a lot of these astronauts are apparently still alive. We'll call them doppelgangers, that they have the same names or nearly the same name. They were born on the same date or nearly the same date. There are all these similarities. They look exactly the same. So I have a lot of experience with this. So I went to look back at my old video, and I happened to use a picture of the same picture, but it was in black and white because what happened was their faces were color. So it was artwork. It was someone else had photoshopped it, but so I couldn't even get the orange jumpsuits again. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back and I'm going to see there's some residue, and I couldn't locate that because I used the black and white. So in any event, and then I went online because you look at residue and like you type in space shuttle, you know, costumes, and they come up as either blue or orange. So you can pick what color you want. And to me, it was always just orange. And, you know, to me, orange is symbolic because it's the same color that prisoners wear, you know, when they go out do the road cruise or something like that. They always wear orange so they could be easily identified. Perhaps the symbology of, you know, humans to some extent being trapped in a reincarnation type thing, which in my video I make about Symphony of Realities, I go and I talk about how that's all been removed. But yeah, so, and then blue, okay, the color blue, throat chakra, right? Throat chakra, speaking your truth. NASA, never a straight answer, right? So maybe all of a sudden, like there'll be things coming out about the truth and the holographic nature of our reality that need to be exposed, that need to be talked about. So, and a lot of us personally are having our throat chakras come online where we can't help but speak the truth. And when we're talking to people, like we want to speak our truth. We don't want to hold back. Whereas before we may have wanted to hold back, but now we're in that phase now where there's all this like activity going on around the throat. So blue, throat. And then I also talk about, this is interesting too, over the UK on September 28th of this year, the sun turned blue. And there's a picture of it here, and it made like all the headlines and stuff. And, you know, science tells us it was because of wildfires in North America caused the sun to go blue. But I don't remember, you know, wildfires being able to change the color to blue. But yeah, so, and then there's the Akashic records. There's like the white, like millions of years ago, original Earth and how it rotated with the sun. It had like it was a whitish blue star. And those type of suns cause purple and pink sunrises and sunsets. So we might want to be on the lookout as well for purple sunsets or pink sunrises, because these could be clues that, again, one more thing, that the reality is changing. So I don't know if anyone else has experienced the same thing with the uniforms changing color.
I remember the orange also. So the blue is new. I like when you bring up the color association with prisoners. Maybe we're getting an option now to move out of that mindset to set ourselves free. So that seems like a good thing. And I'm really especially struck by the fact that when you purchased that costume that you wore, which was to great effect, by the way, you know, when you did the presentation in 2020, and it was orange, it's striking to me and significant that you didn't see any blue costumes. But now, there they are. Yeah. Now it's like they've always been there, I guess. Not like new blue astronaut NASA costume. So that's pretty cool. And then the blue sun, I think I found somewhere in a cave, very ancient petroglyph cave painting, there is artwork showing a blue star or a blue sun.
Oh yeah, like the Hopi Indians too, right?
Yeah, they talk about that. So there's there could be an indigenous connection here, and maybe some, and I don't know what that is. I'm not an expert on that, but certainly leads to interesting areas of investigation and research.
So for the record, I also remember orange.
Yep, me too. So that was interesting. Did you bring up the fact that when you covered this before, Chris, that we went and reviewed that and it's black and white now? Or you went and reviewed it?
Yeah.
I used a picture that was black and white. There was another episode that I did like a long time ago where I dressed up like a NASA astronaut and I was wearing like an orange jumpsuit.
Right.
I'll have to see if that may not have turned blue because you can buy both, but I never had the option of, like Cynthia said, I couldn't buy a blue one or an orange one. So I probably would, if I could have chosen blue, I would have chosen blue. I like to wear blue.
That's my color too. It really fits me well as far as like, I look good in blue like you.
Yeah, you would have chosen blue. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Joyce Box says, I seen the shuttle explode from my front yard when it happened, and I definitely remember orange uniforms when they broadcast it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. From your front yard. Wow.
Yeah. There
Right.
In that night, Ronald Reagan gave like he gave like one of his speeches to the nation about the tragedy that happened. And at the end of that video, I clearly remember them, like there were shots of them wearing the orange uniforms. I watched that video again. They're wearing the blue uniforms. So yeah, so it's definitely we definitely have experienced another reality change.
Aeneas 137 says, I remember Apollo being orange and Space Shuttle being blue.
Interesting.
Living in Georgia at the time, said Joyce wanted to have an interesting. So yeah, definitely a lot of people remember the orange jumpsuits. Rose up there says, with the hashtag says, yes, I remember the orange uniforms. Hashtag for sure. But that's interesting. That is really, really interesting. So they got blue suits now instead of orange at Never Straight Answer. I mean, NASA.
Yes, we want their throat chakra to completely open.
Yes. So they can start giving us straight answers, which they never do.
Well, my feeling about going into the golden age, this time of threshold, crossing into the fifth world, is that if we don't go through with a clear fifth chakra, we're not going to make it through. It's like a waterfall. We're going over, and a lot of spray goes off. Timelines are going into the void. And I think to make it through, we have to stay true to ourselves, to others. So, because I think we'll be creating right from what we think, we'll be creating it. And so for people that are not experienced at that, it could be a shock. There could be chaos. So, integrity, honesty, and love are the way through.
Sticking with colors, let us move to our next slide, the bioluminescent mushrooms. I'm going to repeat that. So glowing mushrooms, ladies and gentlemen, something you would expect to find in, I don't know, Chernobyl, maybe?
Avatar, Pandora.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely not here on Sol, right? Not on Earth. Found largely in temperate and tropical climates. Currently, there are more than 112 known species. That's kind of insane to me, considered I've never heard of them. Bioluminescent fungi emits a greenish light at a wavelength of 520 to 530 nanometers. The light emission is continuous and occurs only in living cells. A species of glow-in-the-dark mushroom, Pinellus. I love you guys when you come up with these names. Pinellus dipticus is common in New England forest in the fall. So it's here in America. This species lives on partially decayed oak and uses a unique chemical reaction to digest chemicals in the oak that are toxic to other fungi. Chris, don't you live in the New England area?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go into the woods here in Connecticut and see if I could spot some of this bioluminescent fungi. And like what ultimately causes it? So you think about like mushrooms, like humans, mushrooms have mitochondria in their cells, and the mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. So to me, these mushrooms must have pretty unique and powerful mitochondria to be able to produce enough energy to make the fungi grow like that. So yeah, this is really interesting. I had never heard of these mushrooms that actually glow in the dark. It's fascinating.
So by daytime, you can look for oak trees and any clusters of oak trees, and then come back when it's dark. I didn't even know you had that many oak trees in Connecticut, but that whole thing is interesting.
Fascinating. If I'm not mistaken, it's one of very, very few land entities, creature, animal, whatever, that actually is bioluminescent, right? There's not a whole lot of those that exist. Humans give off a bit of light, a very small bit, but a bit of light.
Mm-hmm.
So we are technically bioluminescent. But aside from us, I don't know of any other creatures, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that do that on land.
I think Chris may be right. There may be a mitochondrial connection, and so that's an interesting phenomena right there. There's that merger between this, very ancient merger between something that was once bacterial, I guess, and I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, so it leads to another hypothesis too. So if it is the mitochondria that's doing it, humans have mitochondria, and you may have heard reports of people in the past that actually have like glowed. Mm-hmm. So is it possible that if a human can get their mitochondria to a state, they would be able to create even more of these biophotons that their body emits and almost give like a glowing color? So
I'll take that question. Actually, I'll take that question because the mushroom is split off from humans, or split off from the plant long before it diverged from us humans. So it's more closely related to the human than it is the plant kingdom. The mushroom is. Interesting little bit. So if they're that much more closely related to us and they're able to do this, then theoretically, yeah, we should have no issue doing the exact same thing. And again, we give off a small bit of bioluminescence anyway.
Yeah, like the auras you can see, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so maybe that Lucia light, helped give you that, like you were saying, give you that charge where you were at your aura was glowing, like you do something like you jump a car or something, and then eventually that would kind of fade off, Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you can get your mitochondria to that really healthy state, why not? Like, yeah, and all of your light bodies start to really activate, almost become not, and even rainbow, right? Why just be like glowing, mm-hmm. like almost like rainbow? They talk about like how some people have gone what they call rainbow body. So some famous Buddhists, monks, and so forth, they spend their whole life in a certain type of dedication, and then their body in a flash changes to a rainbow, and they disappear into another dimension, or however that's looked at. So I think there's a lot of clues here with these bioluminescent mushrooms and what might be happening to us as humans even in the future. We'll see.
I think there's bioluminescence in the ocean waves some places. I know people like fishermen have seen that. Like there's sort of a glow in the water from.
Yeah, like the algae, like there's some algae.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been corrected on my land statement, not purposely, but Rose says, I would say it's the microtubules. Slime molds can glow, and they have microtubules. Slime molds are a land creature, so I've been corrected on that. That's interesting. I'd never thought about that.
Mold? I don't even know what a slime
what's a slime mold?
Is that a Mandela
One
effect?
of the smartest creatures on the planet, for real, for real.
What?
Yeah.
For real? Like,
These things have been
You are joking.
Yeah, I'm not joking. Like one of the smartest creatures on the planet. These things have been trained to run through mazes and everything else. Like they're really incredible for a mold.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's a lot of research that have been done on these things.
Yeah, and then some things will glow if you put like an ultraviolet light on it. You know, you can see it glow. Other things just glow on their own, like these particular fungi. So, but I don't know about slime molds. So,
there's a new set of research for you, sir.
Yeah.
I've known about slime molds for many, many, many years, but check that out for sure. This is, once again, ladies and gentlemen, a glowing mushroom. I'm going to give one more fact on this, and then we'll go to the next one. A question, really. I've watched a lot of like hunters, guys in the woods, eat this mushroom, don't eat that mushroom, survival, all of these things. I mean, I know we've all watched these, right? At some point or another. Maybe not paid a whole lot of attention, but we've watched them. I don't ever at any point remember them going, and here we have a glowing mushroom.
that
This is true. Yeah, there's no advice. Do you eat this? Do you not eat this? Where does it fall?
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely a magic mushroom for sure.
Yeah,
Ooh, good one.
it is.
Magically delicious. Moving on to the next slide.
Well, we don't. Yeah, don't go out and eat this if you find it. We don't know if it's edible.
Please don't.
Yeah. Do not take this as medical advice. We do not suggest eating it. But you want to report back if you happen to do something so crazy. Exciting assignments that is slime molds.
Oh gosh.
That's fair, Gerald. Trovants. What are Trovants? Did you know rocks can reproduce? Well, sure.
No.
You hit them with a hammer. You go from 1 to 2. No, that's not quite it. Cynthia, what is this?
Well, gosh, these are somehow they're found in Romania, and they're near a certain town where the growth factor apparently comes from when they're exposed to rainwater. They supposedly reproduce by breaking into 2 or 3. It would be smaller rocks. So it rains, then there's more of them, but they're not huge ones. They're not apparently gigantic or anything. I don't know. I've never seen these in real life. I just came across them on the internet. So I can't confirm or deny what they look like or what they feel like in person, but they consist of basically this stone core and an outer shell. And it's, I don't know what this business of it raining and the small stone growths forming on the rocks, hardening and giving the appearance of growing. But that's what's supposedly happening. And then occasionally breaking apart. And so it's fascinating. And then they secrete some kind of cement-like substance that causes them to appear to grow. The whole thing is weird. I've never heard of this before. Never heard of anything like it. Usually if it rains, things get clean. They don't get weird and start growing. And I mean, plants,
right.
Unless it's a plant, that plant or a mold or a fungus. But
at what level do we start to call something alive?
Well, that's the point, because scientists are finding growth rings on these stones. When they cut it, they can see like how many seasons, or I guess how many rainy seasons it's gone through. That's extraordinary. That's like what you do for a tree. So I don't know. I mean, good question, Jerry. What do you think?
I don't know, because I mean, it's literally reproducing. Mind you, they understand there's a way for it to happen regardless of how it's occurring. It's literally reproducing or producing more of itself. So I would call that a life cycle of some type, right? You grow up, you have a child, you carry on, the child grows up, has a child, the child grows, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'll add to that too. Like, so I definitely tune into it. They definitely have a consciousness. And if I look at it positive, negative, neutral, I'm getting like a neutrality type consciousness. And there's this concept that when other consciousnesses want to immigrate to Earth, because of how the holographic reality works, everything is like 1 frame per second. We see linear time as a certain path, and outside of here, it's what they call no time, where time works very differently, and it really freaks beings on the other side to come into this reality because they're not used to linear time. So sometimes they'll come in and it said there'll be a blade of grass, or maybe there'll be a Trovant, or maybe there'll be something else, just to start to get the feel for what it's like to be in this type of environment and how time works here.
Or that horse with the mustache that you covered. I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, from the Centaur, the Centaur star cluster. Yeah. Yeah.
That was
My pet rocket. Maybe you could literally have a pet rock at this point, right?
You know, that could be like, yeah, if you could buy like if they had a little baby Trovant you could buy, would you buy one?
Yeah, I'd water that sucker every day too. We'd live in the rainforest for as it knew.
If you're in Romania, like that could be something, if it's permitted or something, to export Trovants, baby Trovants. I don't know.
But this is
Wasted Millennium.
fascinating, though.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Wasted Millennial says, my pet rock is pregnant. That's hilarious.
Do you remember the Trouble
Pet
with
du
Tribbles
jour,
episode? Yeah.
Yes. Somebody just mentioned it reminds them of a Star Trek episode. Yes.
Yeah, Trouble with Tribbles. Trovant Tribbles.
The second Star Trek episode, was it?
It was pretty early on, but they're born pregnant, so that's the trouble with Tribbles. It's like
Right.
you start with one cute little thing, and then suddenly the whole ship is overflowing with them.
Tet du jour, who was a speaker at our conference back in September, says, "Do you feed it Fruity Pebbles?"
Just rainwater.
Just rainwater.
But you got to love continuing that fruity theme from the conference. Appreciate that, Ted.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's really fascinating, though, that we have found we've ended up in a reality somehow, regardless of what it is and how we got here, where rocks of certain types can literally reproduce, ladies and gentlemen. We've got reproducing rocks. Maybe this is how planets are actually born. Maybe science got it all wrong, right?
You might be on to something there, Jerry.
The core is not an iron ball. It's just a great big Trovant. That's all it was. But you know, those layers of Earth, those are just the rings. You know? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, before I get too far off the rocker and end up in another dimension, next slide, please. Haagen-Dazs or Haagen-Dazs. So the spelling D-A-A-S or D-A-Z-S. And I actually remember an N with a Z, believe it or not, Haagen-Dazs. But similar to Haas avocados, losing the AAS and going to ASS. AAS is computer ASCII code 83. A plus 3, 11. In gematria, A equals 1 and S 90. 9 plus equals 9. AAS 1 plus 1 plus 9, 11. The 11th element on the periodic table is sodium. The 11 milligrams of sodium are in a whole medium avocado. How about Haagen-Dazs? How much sodium does it have?
It's all depending on the flavor. It's all over the place.
That's honest.
Yeah. So if anyone's wondering like what all this means about ASCII code and all that, we went down the rabbit hole as a group with this. So Cynthia was looking at the different meanings of what the AAS and AAS could actually mean. We were like all over the place, but this came up for me. This is something that I found out about probably about a year ago, honestly. But when I was with the group in Mexico, Haagen-Dazs has a lot of like ice cream places, especially throughout Mexico City. So everybody in the group was like, DAZS, like they don't remember the Z ever being in Haagen-Dazs. So I don't know how anyone else feels about that, but it definitely was new for me. And
I remember DANZ. Yes, Duns.
DAAZ?
No, DANZ.
DA Dons.
Yeah, Haagen-Dazs.
Haagen-Dazs.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I definitely remember the double A, just like Haas, it always stood out because you just don't see double A's too much. In fact, I mentioned this before in another video. If you look up the lyrics to a Tone Loc song, he has it spelled in the original way with the double A, DAAS. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So sometimes lyrics will, there was another one like that, the Elton John song, which kept the original Norma Jean spelling, I believe, in the lyrics. So lyrics are a great way. If somebody mentions something, that song happened to be about somebody said Chiba or smoking, weed or something and having the munchies, and he mentions this ice cream, and bam, there it is. You got residue, you know what I mean, of the original spelling. So.
That's a good point too. A lot of residue shows up in song lyrics. Chris, what is ASCII for those that don't know?
Yeah, basically every letter, every number, every symbol is assigned to a certain code. So, so ASCII code 83 is related to that. And then there's a relationship too with gematria. So there's a gematria converter, and you could type in like a name or something like that, and it'll come up with different types of gematria. One is the Hebrew version of the gematria, and it's all very interesting. Like, and it's like just for myself personally, like we talk about life path numbers. Like I'm a life path 7. If I type in Christopher into gematria, it comes up with 7. If I type in Anatra into gematria, it comes up with 7. So, and I constantly see 7s all the time. So so like these numbers have patterns, and there's meanings that are being communicated to us like through the numerology. So so with this, I was trying to find a pattern, and I found a pattern with 11. I'm not saying this is what it is, but it's just one of the things that we came up with.
And it's interesting that 11 keeps coming up. We have the 1111 that comes up for everyone all the time. We're in the 11th month, interestingly enough, presenting this.
Yeah. Shane's wearing the 11 hat, right?
Yeah. And the date, it's 11/29, and technically the 2 and the 9 is another 11. So
it's it is 11/11.
Yeah,
we're in
11/11.
All right.
We did it.
Yeah, it's our last one of this month, of this year, actually. Our last 11/11 of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here's like an interesting thing about like those dates. So in December, we've got the 12/12 coming up. There's going to be an interesting thing going on in the sky that astronomers are going to watching, because there's an asteroid. This is so unique. The asteroid is going to pass directly between Earth and the sun Betelgeuse, and it's going to block out Betelgeuse for like 4 or 5 seconds. And they're going to be doing some kind of, it's going to allow them to see something for some reason.
I thought it was our sun.
No, what I read was Betelgeuse. Then the
maybe it's another asteroid that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, the asteroid is called Leonis 312.
Yeah, that's not it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so, but just that asteroid's path is going to be in the perfect position to block out that large supergiant Betelgeuse. Is like very interesting. Like what could that possibly mean? It's a type of solar eclipse in a way, but a solar eclipse with another sun. So
for another sun, yeah.
Literally with another sun. So 12/12 could be another powerful date. We'll have to see what happens.
So it'll give us an opportunity with Betelgeuse covered. You can see more detail around, that bright star, which usually would be blocking anything that's immediately adjacent to it. So anytime you cover something, you can look around where that bright spot usually is. That just like a bright light in the room, you can't see what's next to it. So it'll give us the opportunity to look nearby. And that is cool. Yeah, December 12th.
Yeah. And is it possible Betelgeuse has already gone supernova? Because people are talking about, astronomers talk about anytime between now and the next, 500 years, it's going to go supernova because the amount of time of light and so forth. Maybe it's already gone supernova, And maybe like we're going to start to see the light from that, but who knows? Who knows?
It will light the sky at night to the degree that you could read a newspaper by it. When
Wow.
that happens. At least that's what scientists says. We'll have to see when it actually happens, whether that's true or not. But, that's the consensus.
Well, now that most newspapers are digital and online anyway, dark would be better anyway. I'm just teasing.
So what do you guys remember being the DAS? DAAS or DAZS? What's the consensus here?
And we also have a DAZZ.
And a DAZZ.
Does anybody remember DAZ as in DAZZ?
Or what Jerry remembers. So people could type.
DANZ.
Let's see what they type in the chat. Yeah, feel free to type it right in there.
Because I haven't seen anybody actually say they remember the NZ besides me.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one either. You're unusual, Jerry.
Hagen-Dazs.
You sound surprised by that.
so technically, Jerry, it's almost like the N fell over for you and turned into a Z, right?
No, it was NZ. Hagen-Dazs.
Oh, okay.
That is unusual.
I figured it was one of those things where it just wasn't pronounced, Hagen-Dazs.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
Turns out, I guess it wasn't there. But now which one of DAZS is the official right now? Is that correct?
Yeah, ZS.
That's the official. Okay. I don't eat this ice cream. It's way out of my budget, so I don't tend to spend a lot of time in that aisle.
I think it's cheaper in this reality now.
Is it?
I'm just playing out.
Bubba, not in this reality. Maybe in a couple of years. Not in this reality. Nothing's cheaper. I promise you.
Oh, Rose says, I remember DAZ or DAZ with an S or a Z, like the 3 letters. That's
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Rose remembers 3 letters only, not 4.
All right.
Yeah, DAZ seems, I think I did see that reality. I think I saw that
wrong.
too. Yes, the 4 letters with the ZS is wrong. I agree with that.
I think we can all agree that just doesn't look right. Despite
regardless
what you remember,
of what it is now, we might remember being something different. We all agree it ain't right now.
Yeah, and there's the concept too that we might actually remember it and these other Mandela effects the different ways. So as the timelines merge and so forth, we could start getting dual memories, multiple memories.
I've got another friend named Heather, not our producer Heather, the other Heather. It gets confusing with her too, don't worry. But she has this theory that every Mandela effect has 3 sides. It isn't just an either or, there's always a third to it. I don't know how true that is, but that's her theory. So it very well could be that we witnessed each one at a different time, maybe, or it's flip-flop multiple times into different things. Any explanation is possible at this point, right? But that's her theory. What do you guys think about that? That all Mandelas have a possible third ME to them.
I think nature answers any question. So, like, you ask a question to nature. If you're expecting 3, I think you'll see 3. If you're expecting 2, you'll see 2. Like, if you're expecting more than 3, you might see more than 3.
Well, like with the Mona Lisa, for me, I remember 4 versions. Because it's like she didn't have a smile, and then she kind of got a smile, and then she kind of got the hairnet, and then she got the mole, and then
what about the thinker too?
Right, the thinker.
Oh gosh, yeah.
There's actually 3 main ones on that, but I even talked to someone the other day that remembered it on the side like this, and I'm like, really?
Yeah, I've heard more than 3 for that one.
Yeah. But for me, I personally experienced the 3: the original to the forehead, the under the chin, and now the sucking on the knuckles. So that's the 3 versions I remember.
Interesting. Yeah, I would say definitely multiple. There's soft disclosure. There was this Netflix series called the OA, it stood for the Original Angel. I don't know if anyone ever saw that, but basically what they would do, I'm not going to give everything away, but basically part of what they would do is they would do, because light language includes movements, and they learned these special movements that would open a portal to go to another timeline. And there was one particular time they basically jumped into bodies of themselves that were running in another timeline.
And at first they didn't remember like who they were playing like different characters because they made in this other timeline, they made different decisions and they chose different career paths. And then all of a sudden they began to let themselves integrate the version of them that they jumped into, and they were started to get all the memories of that person. So if that person had all these special skills and so forth, they started to get all those memories back. So they were merging. They didn't just jump into the bodies, but they also started merging the knowledge and information. So I think that those are the type of things. Oh, my hair, the crown in my head is all tingly as I'm saying this. But these are the types of things that I think we could or we should expect. Because if it is the timeline concept, you know, and we are going into other timelines, could we actually start to get the information that the other versions of ourselves have accumulated? So,
absolutely,
yeah,
that's a wonderful thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I've often felt like that, especially, you know, I've experienced it, but I've heard others also where it's like you have memories sort of pop in your head of memories of this lifetime, but it wasn't actually something like I had memories of living at like this townhouse that I know I actually never lived at, you know, so faint memories and even off planet, but you know.
Nice.
Interesting.
Were you still human or a different species?
The one where I felt like I was docking the ship into the bigger ship. I just felt like me. I didn't, you know what I mean?
Just normal, another regular day at the office.
Right.
Maybe it was a future
and I was excited
memory.
about coming here. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was a future memory.
It could be. Yeah.
So speaking of memory, before we jump to the next slide, I have a question. We've all seen a cow, right? I know, sounds ridiculous. I'm going somewhere with this. We've all seen a cow, and we all know where a cow's body parts basically are. So if I asked you where the udders are on a cow, Cynthia, where would you say the udders are on a cow from your memory?
Well, they're on its lower belly toward the dorsal end, you know, away from the head, but not all the way back to the legs.
About the middle belly or so.
Yeah, kind of, but a little to the back of the middle.
Slightly to the back, but closer to the middle than.
Yeah.
Chris, how about you? What do you remember a cow's udders being?
Well, I grew up next to a dairy farm. I grew up drinking raw milk. Yeah, they were more in the middle. Yeah,
I would agree with that. Shane, what about you, sir?
Yeah, just kind of towards the back, like, you know, they typically reached in front of the legs, it seems like, and milked, you know, right where you would think of the belly.
Yeah,
I would agree with all three of you. Heather, can I get the next slide on screen, please? This, ladies and gentlemen, is where a cow's udders are now located in this reality, and I am bloody confused.
yes,
Utter ridiculous.
Utterly ridiculous. You're right.
Jerry, you are not amused.
No.
Does this look normal to anyone in the chat? Is the question. No, because I mean,
move it.
How does the cow walk? I mean, with this is not
legs?
photoshopped. You're saying this is standard now.
Yeah, go online and look at pictures of cows, and you'll notice this. I figured we could milk this slide for all it's worth, but basically, when I was in Mexico, so we rented a van and we're driving to these little villages here to here. You know, they've got their cows walking around and chickens running around. I was looking at the cows and I'm like, something isn't right about these cows, like where their udders are placed. And so to me, it's like, it just doesn't seem to be, they were never this far back.
It doesn't seem practical. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking on Google now just to make sure the team didn't like fool me somehow. And I can assure you, every picture I can find on Google has the udders way in the back. And this makes no sense to me at all.
It's impractical. It's hard for the cow to walk. I milked a cow once, and if I was a child, a little girl, and it would have. Now I think that's a dangerous thing to have a kid do. With the, you know, those back legs are way too close. I would not want the child to be trying to milk a cow. It's like, don't do it. It's not safe. more where they used to be, that's safe. But now, wow, no.
Do you know?
Go ahead, Chris.
Do you know what you call a cow in an earthquake?
Milkshake.
Yeah, you got it.
So I had a toy, and you guys may or may not remember this. When I was a kid, I had the little farm set, had the pig and the cow and all that. The cow that I had, I thought was the strangest looking thing because the udders on this toy looked just like the picture on the left.
When you said that, it brought back a memory. I had a cow that struck me as odd for the same reason. It just didn't look right. But it wasn't, I don't even think it was this exaggerated. This looks exaggerated, but it's now standard. But it was just slightly more that way, and it seemed a bit off.
Yeah, even elephants. Some people might remember the Mandela effect of elephants, where when they're lactating, they basically have their gear like right in front. Like it's almost, it's yeah. So there's like been some interesting things for some of us happening to mammals this way. It's like really fascinating.
It is strange.
So we've got one person, Luther Wessel, says, looks normal to me. I've milked a cow and that's normal. That is strange.
Or as they say, an udder day, an udder dollar.
But now that's interesting that we have one person remember. That happens from time to time, remembering the regular way. Even happens us here on the team every now and again. 3 of us remember something, the other was like, no, not really. But this, I think we're getting a pretty general consensus. I don't remember the udders being utterly back so far. Yeah, that one fell flat.
Even the size is abnormal to me,
Yeah, they're really,
It just looks wrong.
Yeah.
It looks as bad as the new position of the aircraft engines that are no longer, they're so far forward on the wings.
Right.
That's another one I thought was a joke. Like,
I know.
for real.
That's
It
hilarious.
looks as wrong as that.
The physics just don't work in my head with those airplane wings. I can't make it. I know it works. I flew on them. I know they fly. I can't make it make sense, though.
This would be interesting to we've got these tests. Are you a robot online nowadays? It'd be fun to have some that identify which reality are you from. Like, are you Mandela affected? Are you a human Mandela affected person? So we could correctly identify the way the aircraft engines should be placed, the way the old reality that we remember, and the way cows used to look.
So Rose says, is this possibly a result of inbreeding? One would need to discern. So that's a good question. The problem is every single picture of a cow that I can find looks like that with the udders back there. That's the only thing that I would argue that it wouldn't be something of that nature.
It also doesn't look sanitary, right?
No, it really doesn't.
No.
Yeah, so another reason to switch to oat milk.
The only thing that should be drinking a cow's milk is a baby cow.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
But it's not made for humans. It's made for cows because it's for a cow's baby. So, yeah, there's that. That's my opinion, though. And opinions are like buttholes. We've all got one. And everyone stinks but mine. I'm kidding.
I think we should go to the next slide.
This is too graphic for me. Let's move on.
Moving on.
All right, the DeLorean. Do you remember the toll booth side windows on the DeLorean from Back to the Future? Now, here's another one I mentioned before where I already know that all of the team will not agree on this one. I personally don't, but the reason that I don't is when I was watching Back to the Future, the little window on the big window on the car is not what I was looking at. I assure you, I wasn't paying that much attention to the details. So I'm going to say not 100 on this for me, Cynthia.
I'm not 100, but we've got a video, so let's take a look, right?
Let's see the video then.
Window is separated into two. There's a little window that opens inside of a bigger window that doesn't open. Why? John DeLorean created a car that had air conditioning. You didn't need a window to roll down when you could be cooled off nicely inside the car. He only created that little tiny window so you could pay a toll at a toll booth, hence why they're called toll booth windows. He actually thought in the prototype to create bus-style windows, where he would open them horizontally like this, manually, like you're on a bus. That, of course, fell through. The other rumor was that it was an engineering problem. The geometry of a door that kind of curved like that, with the glass having to curve with it, would be problematic, so he just scrapped it. Since opening these little tiny windows doesn't really change the temperature in the car, I really just use it to wave to fans of the car who drive by. One of my favorite views is when you open up the gull wing door and you look through that window. I just don't think it would be the same without that inset in there.
So there we go. That is the toll booth window. Cynthia, you said you weren't sure either?
Not sure, because I was looking at other parts of the movie, so it wasn't something that it didn't catch my eye, so I don't know one way or the other.
Right, in a time travel flick, that is not the thing we're noticing. It's time travel. We're concerned with the story at that point.
I was, yeah.
Chris, what do you think?
I was going to say, like, I saw this posted on like on a group that talks about Mandela effects, and when I was looking at it, I'm like, yeah, I don't actually remember those windows. So is this a strong one? It's maybe 60% for me, because it's like that outline. You would think I would remember that, but maybe not. Or maybe it's symbolic. Like if you're going to time travel, you got to pay a toll. I don't know. There could be different symbologies going on with that as well. But for myself, it's at least 60. I'll call it, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's at least a 6. So as being like a Mandela effect. And then Shane, what about you?
Well, growing up as an artist in the 80s, I was a huge fan, so I drew that little window a number of times in different, drawings. So for me, it's always been there. Same with the Countach. The Countach is split the same way. It's split in half. The Lamborghini Countach 5000S, it's split halfway and only rolls halfway down. So it's sort of the same thing in my mind anyway. Cool.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Utterly fascinating.
When I was in school, like I was really good at algebra, but I always struggled with calculus. Moon. Keeping the cow jokes going. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So moving on from that, we're going to move on to another black and white singer here.
There he is.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, we should follow the cows with this, the black and the white. Off the Wall album. How do you remember his hands looking when he was standing in this tux here? So what I picture in my mind, and I might be picturing a different picture, is him leaned against the wall with his hands in his pocket.
Yeah. Because they could be different places, right? He could have his arms crossed. He could have his hands behind his back. This is like the weirdest thing. Like, what is that, jazz hands?
It kind of reminds me of, when we were looking at the Beatles one and there was like suddenly these 4 different versions of that album cover. It's like, it makes me wonder if they chose a different one in the shot, because, they always take multiple shots.
Yes.
And it's like in this timeline, maybe they decided that Crazy Hands was, more appealing or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing, Shane, like the Abbey Road, album is the same thing, where all of a sudden, there's literally 4 different versions of that album cover. So maybe the same thing, but I never remember seeing this. Like I never remember him having his hands like that. They were always in his pockets.
Right. Me too.
And then this is one of 3.
Yeah.
That's good.
But wait, it doesn't stop here.
Oh yeah. It doesn't stop.
But
Next
wait,
up.
there's more. Next slide.
You're frozen there, Jay. There we go.
Am I?
You're good.
Just your video. It's okay.
Just your video. Michael Jackson's Ghost short film. So do you guys remember a film besides Thriller that Michael Jackson did?
You mean a sort of a Halloween themed kind of?
Right, like a extended music video style.
Because he did a lot of videos, but I do not remember anything else that was spooky besides Thriller. I don't remember anything else.
Michael Jackson's Ghost, the 1996 short film starring Michael Jackson, directed by Stan Winston and written by Stephen King and Mick Garris. You would think this would have been a thing like we'd all known about.
Yeah, with Stephen King involved. Yeah.
Right. Ghost tells the
interesting.
story of an eccentric man with supernatural powers being forced out of a small town by his judgmental mayor. Jackson plays 5 roles and performs dance routines set to the songs Too Bad, Is It Scary, and Ghosts, taken from his album History, and Blood on the Dance Floor, History in the Mix. Running time is 39 minutes. The most expensive music video ever made, around $15 million, every single penny paid for by Michael. It was supposed to be bigger and better than Thriller of 1982. So, Chris, you know what these videos are. I'm going to let you make the call on which one gets shown.
Yeah, we may not want to show. We can show parts of it, or people can look it up on YouTube and watch it. But yeah, so like to me, when I was watching it, completely unfamiliar, like completely. There's one part where Michael Jackson turns into a skeleton and he's doing all of his moves as a skeleton. And you would think for a almost 40-minute video that you would have some kind of memory of this. So Ghost is something I had zero memory about, like literally zero.
Yeah, me too. And you're right. For something that was this big an expenditure on Michael's part, it was such a big project. I would have thought I would have seen some clips of it or reference to it, but nothing. I totally off my complete radar until I saw it for the first time when you guys mentioned it. But
Yeah, we're looking at some clips from it here, and none of this looks familiar at all.
These are going to be less than 5-second clips. Then we'll just sort of zoom through and sample through it. It is a long movie. So these neighbors are just showing up at the house. They have some complaint or something. And here's Michael greeting them. Yeah, I don't remember anything about this. Forget what they're talking about, what they're complaining about. But you'd think this would freak people out. I think they were, yeah. These are the ghosts showing up.
You know what it reminds me of too? You know how Michael Jackson loved Disney World, right? It reminds me of the Haunted Mansion. And have you ever been to that ride for the Haunted Mansion? They had like the ghosts and so forth. It reminded me of that same kind of concept. And maybe that was in this timeline, maybe that was something that it was based off of. But we may want to stop. We may want to stop playing the clips.
Stop so we don't get
taken down.
Right.
Yeah,
none of that's familiar.
No.
Not until recently when you all presented it. That's so wild.
Mm-hmm. Really different.
And we actually had a third Michael Jackson
to
add to this one.
Oh yeah. So this is an older one. So it's about the Jackson 6. So a lot of people like myself remember the Jackson 5, right? They've always been called the Jackson 5, but there was a period of time, about 2 years, where there were 6 of them. And the 6th person is Randy Jackson, and not the Randy Jackson involved with America's Got Talent or one of those shows.
The bass player on Journey for Journeying, yeah.
Yeah, not related to him at all. But I always remember Michael being the youngest.
Me too.
Yeah, so now Randy is the youngest, and he performs with them. And this even like confused Johnny Carson, I think in 1974. So Heather, if you want to play that video from the Tonight Show.
That's great. No, Lucy said she had to go, but you know what she wants to do? She enjoys this group so much she wanted to stay and see them, because I know you have something you have to go to.
Yeah.
But this is a great group of young people. They're one of the most exciting music groups in the entire world. They have sold, believe it or not, over 50 million records. 50 million records. It is incredible. And this is their latest album, which is called The Dancing Machine, and it's coming Wednesday, which would be the 20th of November. They open at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas for 2 weeks. Would you welcome the Six Brothers, actually, who are known as the Jackson 5.
So even Johnny Carson was like, they're called the Jackson 5, but they're the Six Brothers, right? So that part didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And that there is one more video we could play just to show the same thing. It was from the Carol Burnett show in 1975. So a year later, you know, the 6 of them are still performing.
Mm-hmm.
Every vocal group is made up of individuals, and tonight I'd like you to meet each member of the Jackson 5. This is Jackie.
Hello.
And Jermaine.
Hi.
And Tito.
Hello.
Marlon.
Hi.
Michael.
Hey.
And the newest member of the group, Randy. I guess you're I guess you're pretty happy to be working with your brothers, huh?
Heck no. Without them, I could have been rotting out on Rippy.
So one thing this reminds me of is like when I've done research on famous people in the past, it seems like they have more siblings or more children.
Mm-hmm.
So could this be the same type of thing? Maybe in another timeline, Randy wasn't born, and we're in a timeline where Randy was born. So yeah, so this is an interesting one. It's kind of a strange one. This isn't new. I've heard about this probably a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I just wanted to add it, or talk when we're talking about Michael Jackson things, just to add it into the mix.
I even could have sworn we already covered it this year, weirdly. So and I went back trying to find, did we do this? And no, apparently not. So I remember a reality where we did, but apparently we didn't. So interesting.
Interesting indeed, because like you, I would have swore we did. Now, there may be reasons we didn't, and we went over some of those earlier, but
yeah,
like you, I would have swore we did at one point.
Mm-hmm. But I love what Chris said, what you said about new siblings, because I remember Abraham Lincoln didn't used to have any existing ancestors, and now descendants, and now he does.
Right.
That's big, and so we're definitely seeing this phenomenon with people showing up in these famous families, and I think it's a good thing. I'm glad for it, but it's kind of shocking because I thought Michael was always the baby in the group, and he's not. It's just like I would have remembered this. Like the 5th Beatle, we've all heard of that, but I've not heard of the 6th Jackson, from the Jackson 5.
Yeah, me either. It was the Jackson 5, not the Jackson 6.
So are we going to see a 6th Beatle, I wonder, and maybe a 7th Jackson? I mean, where does this end? How far does this go?
You got me. Like, we just keep coming up with new Jacksons and and Beatles.
Just like footage seems to be popping up too.
Yeah, new footage from some certain classic historical events. We get more and more film footage.
Like the next slide. The JFK assassination. This has now 4 versions of the assassination film. When I was growing up, Cynthia, I don't know about you, I remember one. It was called Zapruder.
Yeah.
That's the only one I ever remember. In this timeline, it is Friday, 11/22/1963 that this happens. Chris clearly remembers it being a Wednesday on the date of 11/23/63.
Oh, wow.
However, that is actually now a Sunday.
What?
Yeah, because the reason I was like researching this, and by the way, these JFK assassination Mandela effects, I did a video with Brian Stavely a couple of months ago, and we went over all these in a lot more detail. So if anyone wants to look into these more, you can watch that video that we did. I think it was really good. But basically, yeah, because you know how Thanksgiving has changed to the 4th. It's always been the 4th Thursday of the month. So I was thinking, was he shot on Thanksgiving Day? Like, how did that all work? So that's why I had it clearly in my mind about the Wednesday of 11/23, and now it's always been Friday of 11/22. And I'm into numbers, and 1122. I would have remembered that.
Right.
And then the next year was a leap year. We had February 29th in 1964. So just something kind of wacky for me going on with the dates and how that works. And there's now 4 films, and the latest one is the Elsie Dorman film, and she was shooting from the book depository.
No way.
Yes.
No way.
He was actually filming the car as it drove by. And to me, it's like, if you're going to like, that would have been the time to shoot when it
Yes.
goes by, not when it's all the way down the road, right? So there's all the
Yes.
conspiracy things and so forth. But it was really fascinating to see footage from, I think it was the 3rd floor or the 2nd floor of the book depository of the car going by. So yeah, so now there's all this additional information that's, you know, come in from this. And look at the cars. So when you look at that back car is now tailgating them.
Right.
Like, I remember it always being back a little bit of a distance, enough for the motorcycles to be between it.
Right.
Now the motorcycles have to stay to the side because they're like bumper to bumper. So to me, just that picture and just watching, this is my big awakening, actually. Like when the JFK assassination film, when it changed for me from 4 people in the car to 6 people in the car, that was like a big, like, I was like, what's going on with this? It didn't make any sense. So now, you know, you got the cars that are both like bumper to bumper. Also too, the governor of Texas' wife, well, Jackie holds a bouquet of red roses, and the governor Connolly's wife is holding a bouquet of yellow roses, like the yellow rose of Texas, so to speak. And I never remember the yellow roses. I always remember the red roses and how they were like left on the back seat of the car and, you know, that type of a thing. So there's so many things about this. And to me, it's a good teaching example as to how timelines work. So we've got all these timelines that we can clearly remember by this big historical event. And for ourselves, we could be like, no, it wasn't this way. It wasn't this way. It was. So it keeps on adding, like it literally keeps on adding. And when you watch the assassination film too, you'll see more people in the background. And like, so on the other side of the car, like across from the grassy knoll, there's a lot more people that are standing there. And I saw new people that are holding cameras. Like, so there should be even more evidence coming out. And then on some of the films, right after the assassination happens, guess where everybody runs? To the grassy knoll. Everybody runs up there because it's said that that's where they heard the gunshots coming from. So everybody ran up there. So, and now there's sound. Like you can hear, like the Zapruder film has sound. You can hear the sound of the gunshots.
Wow.
And Governor Connolly gets hit. I remember him just getting hit in the leg. Now he gets shot in the back, the wrist, and the thigh. And he now
supposedly went through him and only hit him one time that I remembered.
Yeah. And now he screams, "My God, they're going to kill us all." And I don't remember that being part of the assassination either. So it's like, boom, 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 like all these new, every time I tune into it, it seems like there's something new going on with this.
That is wild.
Wow. So what's the big, I know you've gone into so much detail with this, and I'm glad you did that video with Brian Stavely. Would you summarize, like, going forward, what's the big takeaway that we can really, what's the gift from all of the changes here?
Yeah, you know, it's hard to see a gift when someone gets killed. and
Looking,
like,
you know me though, I'm a radical optimist.
Yeah.
Let's find that silver lining.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, the crowds, the people loved JFK. Like when you see his like other speeches and stuff that he gave, like when he was president, people like loved being around him. He must have emitted some kind of an aura that just like a magnetism that just attracted people, and people had like respect, like immediate respect for him. So, you know, for me, what I see is just basically, to me, it's just primarily a teaching example with a dramatic historical event to show how the reality works. So that with all these Mandela effects for this, there's got to be like somebody that, like, to me, it would be rare to find somebody that remembers it exactly the way it is now. But
Right.
There probably are, you know, obviously there are. But for a lot of us, it just shows the teaching of how we're like moving, like going through the timelines.
Now his presidential candidate nephew is running for president now, and he's saying things about what happened this day. Is any of that relevant, or is it? I don't know if you've looked at any of that with relation to the Mandela Effect aspects that we're looking at here.
So like a lot of the things that RFK is saying is like bringing attention to this.
Yep.
And maybe it's pulling in these other timelines, or maybe, this might be a timeline that he remembers, and that's being brought into our bubble of reality because he's speaking about it more, and it was in his bubble of reality. And yeah, so he makes a lot of statements about what he feels actually happened.
Right.
And a lot of what he says, I believe, is like, and with him too, like he's speaking his truth, but his throat, like, it's almost like the global narrative is like choking him.
Like, don't say these things.
No, he's got the thing like Katharine Hepburn, like where it's hard for him to talk, right? But he's still like speaking his truth, and anyone that speaks their truth should be respected, the way I see it. But yeah.
Fascinating.
So one thing we have noticed, and Chris, you brought this up, sort of kind of touched on it a moment ago. Anytime you see large masses of people focusing on an event, element, subject, topic, whatever the case may be, we start seeing changes. The consciousness itself focused on anything, whether it was the Statue of Liberty years ago when we did the test in the community. We've had the pyramids. We've had JFK change a number of times when SMQ, I, and Chick were looking into World War II heavily. We started seeing changes there as we were looking into it in real time. So it's having that conscious attention seems to have some type of effect on Mandela effects. It can't explain them all yet, but having that attention, that global attention, especially with RFK coming in, for instance, seems to have more people putting more conscious attention on JFK, which we're seeing more and more JFK changes. That's a theory anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. Whenever it gets like the attention like that gets put on it, especially from someone that is speaking from authority, because he was in that family, he knew all the gossip, he knew everything that the family was talking about. Yeah, so it's almost like he's anchoring in those other timelines.
It's really interesting. A piece of evidence we definitely needed to mark down and follow later, because this is a pattern we're starting to see.
Yeah. And the other thing too is like it shows people. We can't really talk about government, can we? I guess we can't.
We cannot back any specific political party.
You can say generalities, like if you're teaching a history class.
Right.
Yes, I won't say what I was going to say. So
very good, sir.
I will say this: it helps wake people up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will agree with that 110%. So JFK assassination has had another set of changes within it. With the extra films coming to light, I would say that is more truth coming to light, more truth coming into our reality, more people opening their eyes and knowing opposed to believing.
Right.
Thus the age of Aquarius. Speaking of ages, I was a really young lad. I used to watch a lot of TV. I don't do that anymore. I don't even own one now. One show I liked was Three's Company. Three's Company had some really hot actresses, right? Especially like Suzanne. I thought Suzanne was really cute, right? But how do you spell Suzanne Summers' last name, sir?
I remember how because I would watch the show on TV. I always remembered it was spelled like the season.
Like the season? Shane?
Like the season, yeah. Summer.
Like the season.
Yeah.
That's how
Definitely
I remember
not
it.
the O. That's really strange.
Right. That's how about you, Cynthia? What do you remember?
I do remember the O. I think it was Somer, just one M. I don't know what it is now. Yeah.
Okay.
And with an S. Yeah. I know I'm weird.
Survey says it is Suzanne Somer's current timeline. So you've got the current timeline memory.
I don't have two M's, just one M.
Yeah, current timeline, the third one on the list.
That is what it is.
Yes, ma'am. So I remember Summers like the first one there, like the other two guys do. It's interesting us guys remember that, right? We weren't paying a lot of attention. I do remember when the community come out and said, wait, no, it was Summers, not Somers. U to an O change. I don't know when they took the second M off. As Cynthia remembers it, Somers, S-O-M-E-R-S, or Summers, pronounced as such.
Well, it looks weird when I look it up. I'm looking at it like that does look wrong. You guys are right. When I actually look at it, like, okay, that's wrong. If I was typing it, I'd be like, okay, got to fix that. It's got to have 2 M's.
Right.
Oh my gosh. I just looked it up like that can't be right. Okay.
But this one connects to you, Miss Cynthia, as that's not the only name change we found this month. You had a personal little event happen this month to you, did you not?
I sure did. Yeah, I get these newsletters from the chancellor of UC Berkeley because I live in Berkeley. I'm an alumnus of the school. And so I get the updates. And this month I got the usual email and it came through Carol Christ, or what looks to me like Christ. Like, I'd want to sing the song, Carol Christ, superstar, But no, it's always apparently been Christ. And my recollection that I don't remember that. I remember it was always Carol Christie, like an I, a cute little I at the end, Carol Christie. I thought, oh, that's a cute name, but she has a very serious job. So it's Carol, but she's never been Carol Christie. So I was just asking other people, what do you remember? And they remember it's always been Christ. I'm like, seriously? That's such an unusual last name, don't you think?
Wouldn't you think that would have stood out? Christ, I would have noted that day one, right?
Yes. I know. It's like, well, look, they've got a relative. Maybe it's Jesus's, descendant or something.
Right. Like, oh my God. Or
I know.
The fact that the chancellor is Christ, like the Christ is the leader. Like, there's so many directions I would have taken that.
But that's the direction it's going. Like, I would credit this to an absolute Mandela effect, even though currently it's just me. Anyone else notices this, put it in the comments on this video, or if you're here right now in the chat. But I don't, maybe it's just me, but I'm just saying, like I did with Larry Hagman when I know he died, he came back to life, and I put it in my book, Reality Shifts, in the 90s. I'm going to say the same thing with Carol. It was Christie with an I. I know that. And now there's no I, and it's just Christ. I don't even know how to pronounce it because I look at it like, what is this, Christ?
Right.
I was like, no.
So she's the chancellor of Berkeley, right?
Yep, currently.
How many is this now? She's number...
Oh, right. I think
it's on screen.
Oh, it is. Okay.
There's a cheat sheet, I promise.
What is that? Is it 111th?
No, the 11th.
The 11th. Okay. Oh, it's the same number as what we saw earlier.
Yes,
we were looking at the number 11 with Haagen-Dazs. And that was significant. Yeah. So there's something going on.
Back to that too.
Shane's hat, the 1111. Today is 1111.
Shane's hat.
Well, yeah.
Today's the equivalent of 1111. Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's a big thing going on with 11. Big thing. I don't know. I mean, it goes to 11, like in that Spinal Tap movie. If you've seen that. Do you remember that funny scene? It's like there's a little volume dial, and it's like, but it goes to 11. It's just funny because it's like, well, it's a dial, so it's going to be. You can put any number you want on it, but this one goes to 11. I feel like sometimes the universe, the cosmos, is winking at us, kind of like, okay, do you guys get it? Do you see that there's something fun going on? She went from Christy to Christ or Christ, How do you like that?
Well, I'm glad it winks at you. It uses me as its jester.
Well, I like humor. To me, it's like, it's good if there's a little joke in there.
Yeah, the universe finds it hilarious. I don't always tend to.
I was going to say to somebody, I can't see it right now, but somebody put a comment in there that SOMMER is German for summer.
Ah,
really?
Interesting, because kindergarten, like in all those different
yeah
to the German meaning.
Yeah. Suzanne Sommers.
Yes. Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah, that's nice. That makes
Sherry,
sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. I remember the 2 M's as soon as I type it in. Because when I look at what it supposedly always has been, that's wrong. No, it wasn't that. Suzanne Sommer. No. Interesting. These are very interesting.
Yeah, I was a little tripped when you said 1M.
Well, then I look at it like that is so wrong. Well, I was confused because I'm looking at the title on the slide and it looks like the UMMERS. I don't remember a U. I remember it with the O, but I guess with the two M's. So interesting.
Yeah, that's wild.
What's your take on that? Any interpretation on going from what some of us remember to the two M's to one?
Less madness? I don't know.
Yeah, and we've noticed, right, so many name changes.
Yep.
Like 5 or 6 months ago, Evil Knievel went to Evil Knievel, EVEL instead of EVIL. I always remember Evil,
yep.
EVIL. Now it's always been Evil Knievel. But I think you pronounce it, evil, but it's spelled Evil. Same thing with Summers. Like now it's like you say it, you call it Summer, but it's pronounced Somer. So it's just like doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. Interesting though.
Yeah.
Just a hint that we're on a fresh timeline, maybe? Or a new timeline?
Definitely that.
Yeah. So what's our next slide?
Our next slide takes us around the world, ladies and gentlemen, to the Great Pyramid of Giza. And it has, okay, so I'm torn on this one. In ufology, you come across a lot of information about Giza, about the pyramids. There's a big UFO connection to Egypt. And I have heard that the pyramid is 8-sided. This isn't the first time I've actually heard this myself. Now, looking at it, you can't see it. Apparently, it's like a certain angle. You got it like the angle we're looking at here, where you can actually see all the slopes and edges and sides. And I've never seen it laid out like this. So this is the first time I've actually seen it numbered out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is interesting. I'm not sure about it being a Mandela effect for me, so I'm going to pass this on to my team. Go ahead, guys.
Well, I never heard anything about this, but I don't study the ufology the way you have, Jerry. So maybe that's why it didn't come up. I haven't really studied Egyptology, but I know that pyramids seem like they have 4 sides, and that's when I looked at pictures. To me, it always looked like there were 4 sides. I didn't hear anything about 8. So for me, it's new.
Yeah, and so how does the sacred geometry work with this? Because technically, the Great Pyramid of Giza should be called the Great Octagonal Pyramid of Giza, because it has these 8 sides, even though some of them are hard to see. Besides, I guess it was first discovered in 1940 when a British Air Force pilot took a picture he was flying over. That made it really clear. So to me, it almost enhances the potency of the pyramid by having these additional sides that are even though they're concave, I think it's doing something a little bit more to make this pyramid have an even greater effect. And then you get into the pyramid and where its placement is and the different stars and Polaris and Sirius and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, for me, this is new. And I've been to the Great Pyramid of Giza. I've been inside the pyramid as well. You think you would have, with all the research I would have done, I would have come across that it has 8 sides. So again, could this be a higher frequency timeline that we're in where the shape of the Great Pyramid is a little bit different than what people remember?
Feels like that to me. And, as with all Mandela effects, some of us, it's new and some isn't. For like Jerry, it's not new, but for me, it's new. And I like what you point out about the focus. And did you say something about focusing of the energy? It really does look like it's doing that with 8 sides. It seems much more focused.
Yeah, the technical term is that it's an octagonal pyramid.
Well, but if you notice the aerodynamics of it, like if you made an arrowhead out of an 8, if you took this shape, it's much more aerodynamic. It's got a penetrating. It's going to go through whatever, if it was flying through the air, for example. It's much more aerodynamic. It's much more pointed, even though there hasn't been much of a change except slight addition to this concavity and those additional indentations on the 4 sides.
And it says viewed from any ground position or distance, this concavity is quite invisible to the naked eye. Can only be noticed from the air and only at certain times of the day.
Right.
Well, I disagree about the air thing because I remember seeing pictures of it years ago where when the sun catches it just right, you can actually see the pictures I saw, and it's probably maybe 10 years ago or something. So it's new to me. Like I don't always remember it, but it's older than the Mandela effect for me, but it could have been a Mandela effect before I realized the Mandela effect. But yeah, definitely. I do remember each side split in half like that. And when the sun catches it just right, it's kind of obvious, but you can see it from the ground at certain times when the sun hits it just right.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, an 8-sided pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Such a strange thing. One would be forgiven for not knowing this, as humanity didn't know this again until the 1940s, like Chris said, when a British pilot took a picture. So the pyramids were around a long time before 1940, folks. So nobody even knew it up until that time. And even then, it doesn't seem it became a majorly published fact. So one would not be wrong for not have knowing that, whether it was a fact or whether it's a Mandela effect. You know, that's that fine line we walk, isn't it?
Totally.
Absolutely. Hey guys, I'm going to have to dip out here. I've got to leave at the top of the hour here. So sorry to leave a couple of slides early, but all right. Lots
You
love,
wanted 2
everybody.
slides earlier. You're fine, Bubba.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Love you, brother.
Love you.
All right. And our last slide of the evening in the mix before we get to our mailbag is the Amaterasu particle. So this is the same particle I was reading about as the goddess particle. Reported on Thanksgiving Day 2023, ladies and gentlemen. Back to the Thanksgiving Day where we started the show. The Amaterasu particle is one of the highest energy cosmic rays ever detected. Stronger than the oh my god particle. The source, nobody knows. It is described as from the void of space, the Andromeda Galaxy, maybe. Who is Amaterasu? Japanese great divinity illuminating heaven, the celestial sun goddess. So I found that striking because we rarely see goddess referenced anywhere, whether it be scientific or anything else. So fascinating the fact that they named it goddess particle is its actual nickname that I've seen. Cynthia, you are our resident scientist here. What do you got?
Gosh, I don't know what to say. This is definitely an area of open inquiry. It's a mystery. Like you, I think it's impressive they named it a goddess particle. They already had the so-called God particle and then the oh my God particle. So then where do you go? But nature keeps surprising us. And so this is really one of the biggest surprises so far. Like they say, they don't know where it came from. There isn't really an explanation. So stay tuned. But I think just the fact that it showed up seems significant. And the fact that we're getting these coming through, it seems like there are more and more of them. I don't know where they'll go after this one. I don't know if there will be another one, but it seems like the way things are going, who knows? So I don't know.
We have said for a long time, there's another set of physics out there that is yet to be defined or discovered. And I think we're starting to see some beginnings of that right here, right now, with these high energy particles that are getting new names. They're literally new particles, right? The new parts of physics we've yet to figure out or understand.
Right.
Yeah. And I also want to clarify too, that this particular event is not a Mandela effect, right?
No, it's not.
This is something that's new, that's brand new, that's been discovered. And it all goes back to the concept of the Earth, magnetic shields being lowered, or what I say being brought back to normal, more solar radiation is coming in, coronal mass ejections, plasma, and now we have this particle coming in, which is very strong. And so scientists don't know where it's coming from. They say just the void of space. What I was tuning into was that it's somehow the result of the Andromeda Galaxy. And I don't know if people know that, but the Milky Way and the Andromeda, They say in so many millions of years both galaxies are going to merge with each other. But already, currently now, the halos of both are colliding. And there's also the concept that we have future selves from Andromeda that are orchestrating different things to make sure that we're on to the highest timelines. So there's this whole concept with Andromeda, our future selves assisting us, this very unique cosmic rays coming in for the purpose of all these different kinds of upgrades, whether it's for Earth or for humans or whatever. And for those of you watching this live, we just had almost an X-class flare the other day, and we have this solar storm watch that's going to be happening, I think, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have a chance of being in at least a moderate solar storm. So there's all of these things that are happening, in the holographic sky above us and the things that we observe that are having this direct impact on us. And this shouldn't frighten anyone. I think it should make people like really hopeful, because I feel like we're being restored and our DNA is becoming unlocked, or what I call, like, when I talk about the prison break concept, it's really like the unlocking of our DNA. And it's like, because every cell, like prison cell every cell in our body, has our DNA, and it's starting to unlock. So that's also part of the concept of, what is a prison and what is the soul, and what happens when our DNA does unlock and we get to a certain level. And I don't have all the answers to this, but I do know that it's very, very, very exciting times ahead, for sure. Then, in the next 4 or 5 years, it's going to be incredible. It just has to.
I have to agree with that, because it's only been getting more and more incredible as we went on. Perhaps these cosmic rays that we're suddenly being able to determine last, decade or so, could be one of the things causing Mandela Effect shifts. And it's just you and me, Cynthia.
Okay.
What do you think about that? Perhaps they're actually responsible for the Mandela Effect, these new particles coming in and these new waves of energy.
Well, I'm not so much a materialist, so I tend to think it's more consciousness running the show. And so I'd say we're getting these indicators. I like what Chris is saying. I love, it's music to my ears to look at all these Earth changes, the changes in the Earth's magnetic field as being, yippee, this is good news. I love that approach, because when you see it that way, then we were made for these times, and they can, like he's suggesting, unlock perhaps long hidden, concealed capabilities that we all have. I really do feel we're leaving the information age behind. We're entering, call it a quantum age perhaps, but it's definitely opening abilities in each of us. So I feel like that's definitely the most positive perspective on this. Not necessarily the most physicist, scientific based, but consciousness comes first. It's got to. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of our DNA, I believe, is memories, is like our past memories. So if I get visions of Atlantis and I start to remember things from that era, and other people start remembering things from whatever other time periods, like that's literally our DNA starting to unlock and communicate to us what's been stored in there. And there's a lot of things that we're healing and we're resolving and we're taking care of. So going back generations and generations and generations, depending on how long you've been on this planet.
Yes.
Which would explain my weird connection to England, because I've been obsessed with that culture, language, everything about it all my life. Then I got a blood test and found out I'm actually 58% British. So that's interesting. That's way over half, right? Like it's like the blood is calling back to the land where it came from, right? So I'm with you on these memories, whether it be past life or even past familial. It may not even be your own past life, just past familial memories passed down through the generations, right?
Yes. Even trauma, like trauma could be passed down in the DNA. And that's something that a lot of us are clearing. And when we clear it, we go back generations, and we actually clear it for our children as well. So yeah, the DNA is a lot more than what science tells us. It's so important. It's so important for who we are.
Looks like Jerry might be frozen.
I
Are you
agree.
there? Oh, Oh, good, you're back.
Are you there?
Yes.
Somewhere between here and there. Closer to here
Jerry,
than there, actually.
Jerry, I think you got a question in the mailbag.
Yes.
I do have a question in the mailbag. Let's go ahead and pull the mailbag up. What do we have in the mailbag, Heather? Question from Carpenter 3. How you determine when a shift happens? I've seen people mention effects years after other people see it. So this is a great question. This is a question I get quite a bit. How do you know that a shift has occurred? And I have a certain way that I go about it. I think everyone has kind of developed their own little system. I know some people who have a series of pictures on their computer, and they'll go and check these pictures and see if anything's different in each one. So they have a series of qualifiers they use, if you will. Personally, what I do, we found I say we, myself, Chick Mandela Effect and SMQ, and another guy, Jeremy, I want to say his name was Jeremy Johnson, yes, found a specific signature in the data of the Schumann resonance. This signature tends to occur every time there's a shift. Well, how do I know that? What we did is we would note when we seen the signature, and we would listen to the community, and you guys would tell us whether there was a shift. You guys would tell us whether there were a bunch of new Mandela effects, whether there were a whole lot of weird things going on, whether there were a bunch of synchronicities all happening to everybody at the same time. Maybe not the same synchronicity, but a lot happening. Right? So we would use this system for the longest time to determine, hey, yeah, there was a shift, or no, it was a false signal, is what we were trying to find out, how real the signal was. So that's what I personally use is I've got a team right now that is constantly watching the Schumann resonance. And when they see that signal, they'll notify me. And when they do, I will start listening again within the community and listening to people say, hey, we had these changes, or money bags. A lot of times right after a shift will come out with this huge video or a huge series of videos with different changes. That's how I do it. Cynthia, what would you add to that?
Well, I think most people aren't studying the Schumann resonance that closely. So
Right.
I notice when a shift happens, just because I'll just do a double take. It's like whatever I was expecting, it's different. And I'll just make a mental note, like, what was I expecting? What's actually happening? And so if it's a real time shift, like something just moved, or like a personal Mandela effect, that's very significant and striking. So I determine it by just trusting my memory and, really relying upon that. And of course, I'll double check to see, could I have somehow gotten this confused? If it looks like no, I do trust my memory, then I'll go with that. But it can be kind of complicated. Like today, I was looking at Carol Christie, Suzanne Summers, or Sommer, or whatever. And it's very interesting to take a look at how do you write something, how do you spell it, what feels right to you, what you notice a shift has happened, or I do, because I'm doing that double take. Like, wait a minute, that's not what I thought I would see here. That's not what I remember. Something's different. And then the other part of this question that's coming in here is I've seen people mention effects years after other people see it. We've discussed that a lot in today's episode of Open Tables, because we're mentioning that sometimes one of us will see a shift, and then down the road, other people will notice it. And that's really interesting too. That's very much a part of this phenomenon of the Mandela effect. So you can determine it happened for me, and be open-minded that, if it's someone you trust and they say that's a shift for them, but maybe it's not yet a shift for you, that's okay. Maybe it won't ever be a shift. Maybe it will. Maybe you're coming along at a different speed. Sometimes when Chris is talking about timelines
They're
converging,
so hard for me too.
Oh yeah,
those are so hard for me. When somebody, even you got a group of people that swears they remember it this way and I remember it the other way, like I can't discount them, but I know I don't remember it that way. Like that really bothers me a lot, trying to reconcile that.
Yeah, because we want to agree. We're social animals. We want people to agree with us, and it's kind of it's an uneasy feeling when you're the one weird person in the room that remembers the JFK assassination differently or something. Or the fact that the moon is now out in the daytime, whatever it is. It's like, okay, this is awkward. I guess I'll shut up about this. But that's what's nice about having this community. We can talk about these things, and it's okay when there are different timings of people coming, into a particular timeline or time curve.
Chris, what do you got to say about both halves of that?
Okay, so what I would add to the conversation is that, to me, it's personal. So we're in our own bubbles of reality. Think of it like a race. So you've got the start of the race, you got the finish line. We're all like running at different speeds, so to speak. We all want to get to the finish line, but some of us are faster, some of us are slower. So I think that depending on how we're vibrating, we're noticing these things in a different series, or whether it's the moon or King Tut's headdress having the vulture, and the cobra on it. Somebody recently contacted me and they said for them it just changed. And I knew about this like at least 5 years ago. So we're all like at different points. We're all getting to the same place, but it's hard to say, was there on this particular date, was there a big timeline shift? Sometimes I actually think that's true. So like on 11/11 of this year, did something happen where we did everybody did a shift, and then when the next shift happens, there'll be like little jumps and starts, and then there'll be another big shift, and everybody kind of falls into that. So it's kind of like a blend of everything that we're talking about, is the way that I would describe it and see it. But we're all getting to where we need to go, and then sometimes we get pushed into the next big timeline shift. And then depending on where we are and how we're vibrating is the things that we'll start to notice. And the personal Mandela effects are the big ones too. Those personal ones, we talk about the big, so we try to agree right on the big ones, but the personal ones are even more important in how we observe those, because that's a definite indicator of what's going on in our local reality.
Have you guys experienced any physical reactions in a shift?
What do you mean reactions?
So I've heard people claim that they're more wore down, more tired, got less energy at a shift, or I've heard people say they have certain illness effects, maybe fevers, headaches. I've heard all kind of different. What's that, Chris?
Their eye color. They notice their eye color, like dramatic things, like their eye color changed, or they'll have relatives that tell them, you never had those color eyes before. And those type of things.
But I think, Jerry, you're getting at, are you noticing, you're feeling like, whoa, everything just moved, or I'm seeing a shimmering, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Hearing a buzzing, a vibration, tingling, yeah.
A ringing of the ears.
Yeah.
Oh, man, tinnitus, ringing in the ears for me is off the charts.
Yep.
How about with you guys? And my left ear, don't even talk to me on the left side of my body, because I'm not, it's like, wee. Talk on this side.
Yeah. So a lot of those kind of indicators are strong ones that there's a shift underway. And you're right. There's kind of a constant ongoing aspect right now.
So I will tell you that, go again back to me, myself, Chick, Mandela Effect, and SMQ. We were doing a lot of research into different things, and this being one of them. What does a shift do? Does it affect us? And if so, how? What we were able to do by asking people to voluntarily submit blood records for us prior to and after what we determined would be a possible shift, we noticed one specific element that would drop every single time across the board in all patients, and that's magnesium. Magnesium would drop to weirdly low levels right at a shift every time. Now, it was a very small selection of people. It wasn't like a grand study, so I can't, I haven't had it confirmed or redone over and over and over. It hasn't been repeated, should I say, but I do have the data. I have looked at it time and time again, and I can tell you that it does have a possible effect on the magnesium of the body. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. Please do not take it as such.
Interesting.
Yeah, and for anyone that wants to get more magnesium in their body, you can take magnesium supplements.
Yes.
There is an even better way, and that's you go to a float center and you float, because all of the salt, when you're in the float tanks, the magnesium absorbs
Manganese,
through your
yep.
skin. Yeah, and it's really good for your brain. But yeah, there could be something to the magnesium thing. And yeah, I definitely advocate doing the float tanks for like an hour. If you have one you could go to. I just happen to have one in the local town that I'm in, and I try to go to it at least every couple of months. But yeah, it really makes a big difference. It's really good for your brain health, the magnesium.
Awesome. I did
Interesting.
not know that, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go. Cynthia, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying interesting. Yeah, very interesting. But for the real-time acknowledgement of what's going on, can you spot a shift when it's happening? How do you know it is a shift? I get over the last 23 or 24, 25 years, gotten tons of emails with that question. Like, how do you know when it's a real shift? How do you know you're not just imagining it? And so it's really about pay more attention, keep looking, look more closely, pay more attention, and open your mind so that you can start noticing your own detection system. It could be different from person to person. I don't think most people are going to be testing their blood to see, like, was there a magnesium drop? Probably not. That's unusual. But you can.
No, but it is something to be aware of. Like, if we've determined a shift, hey, I might want to take some magnesium. It might be low.
That's a really good information. Yeah, it's good to know.
Right. Which could also be causing different physical effects in people if theirs is dropping to a more low level than is healthy. You know what I mean? Which would describe some of the things we see people describe during shift, which we've heard: headaches, low energy, fatigue, things like that. Happens to be that's the same symptoms as low magnesium. So
it's interesting. It makes you wonder, why would the magnesium take a drop like that when you're jumping timelines?
Why that specific element? And that's where I'm at. I've not found the answer to that question or anything that could suggest why that specifically would be the case.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and the other thing that helps people too is what they call cell salts. You can buy them on Amazon. They're very inexpensive. CELL salts that give you these important like minerals that your body needs. I find that those help as well. And I haven't related it to time shifts, but I'll tell you, like, I feel like timelines are merging for me literally throughout the day. Not the major ones, but there's definitely stuff going on. Almost every time that I blink, I feel like timeline has just shifted somehow. So
fascinating. I wonder what else drops besides magnesium. And this is something that could be useful to pay attention to.
Right. If we could have a bigger study on that, that'd be even better. Of course, we can't right now. But if anybody wanted to take on that study, maybe in the medical field, if you have the opportunity, I'm just saying, or if we could, like, I don't know, there's a lot of experiments we could come up with, but it's definitely something that I want to carry on research for, within. A very interesting find that we found, and I've not had any follow-up on.
It is interesting. I'm just looking up what's magnesium required for, and it is required for energy production in the body. So that would be your mitochondria, oxidative phosphorylation, and glycolysis. It contributes to the structural development of bone, and is required for the synthesis of DNA, RNA, and the antioxidant glutathione. So it's definitely. They don't mention, of course, that you need it when you jump timelines.
Right. Conveniently, they don't mention that part.
Yeah.
This part intentionally left blank.
Right. But yeah, so it would have those effects, like I was saying, if it was dropping, and that's the effects that we've heard a lot of community members. I know yourself have heard a lot of members say, was there a shift? I feel tired.
Yeah.
Tired, or I've got a headache, or I've had a headache for days, or I don't have any energy lately.
Yeah, they list some of the things they list for low magnesium: low appetite, nausea or vomiting, fatigue and weakness, muscle spasms or tremors, and abnormal heart rhythms.
Interesting. Somebody should make a timeline shifting supplement, a Mandela Effect timeline shifting supplement that combines like magnesium, cell salts, and even phosphorus. I think may also play a key role in all this.
We can set up a timeline jumping kit for the next conference. So
Yeah, there you go.
You heard the idea created live on air, ladies and gentlemen. So to close out today's episode, we got probably 5 minutes left. We do have a question. If you guys have any questions, do drop them in the chat. Like I said, we got 5 minutes left. We'll get to as many as possible if we have time after this one. And of course, there's another slide in here that I always forget about before the questions because we don't go over it in pre-show, and I friggin' missed it. Okay. A special thank you to our current and new Patreon members. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys help us so much. We cannot express how much we appreciate every one of you guys, especially our Patreon members. Most of the money used to do the last conference came from the ones on Patreon. So you guys really do make a difference. Over there, you're also going to be able to watch the Green Room episodes, the things you're only going to get on Patreon. And it's stuff that cannot be discussed on YouTube most of the time. A special thank you to our current and new Patreon sponsors. The current sponsors over a year, gold level. Congratulations. We appreciate you guys hanging with us for so long. Jason Ram, Jody, Colleen Learley, Stephanie Clay, James, J.D. Peterson, Paul Ellis, Bo Kim. I must give us a very special shout out to Bo Kim, who gives an extra amount every single month out of the goodness of their heart. So we very much appreciate that. Allison Eastman and Gail Brown. Silver level, Teresa Richards, been with us over 6 months, hanging in there over 6 months. Have enjoyed at least 6 of the Green Room episodes. Teresa Richards, Belinda Anders, Laurie Glasner, and A. Thompson. I believe is Alicia Thompson, if I'm not mistaken. And bronze level, our newcomers. We've had a large amount of newcomers, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to everyone who just joined us over on Patreon, like Elaine Osborne. I met Miss Elaine at the conference. I know Elaine. Laura Bortman, Jojo Williams. I know Jojo too. Amy Lacey, Vit Hartman, Lisa Henderson, Laura Monson, Kathleen Wright, William, Sylvia Bondurant, Ann Gaynor, and Lena Harlia. So thank you to all of our Patreon members. Thank you so very much. If you want to become a Patreon member, very easy to do. The link is on the very bottom of the page, www.patreon.com/IMEC. Ladies and gentlemen, you can join us there. Also, we appreciate Betty Smiley real quick coming over in the super chats, or $2 super sticker we got earlier. That it was absolutely excellent, Betty. We very much appreciate you. The cool super sticker that it was. All right, now next up we have shows coming up the rest of the year, ladies and gentlemen. We will finish out season 3 Wednesday, December the 20th, 2023, our last episode of the season, episode 10. What would the topic be? We there yet? I don't know. But I can guarantee you it's one that you do not want to miss. That will round out our year and our season here at IMEC, and then we'll pick up our new season in the new year, ladies and gentlemen. Our first New Year episode, season 4, will be January 31st, 2024, the very last day of the month. Just barely got it in there. And then Wednesday, February 28th, which was not the last day of the month, ladies and gentlemen. Surprisingly enough, we didn't go the end of the month 2 times in a row. February 28th, 2024. So mark your calendars, mark these dates down. We will be here, same bat time, same bat channel, right? So we really, really appreciate you guys. Next slide. Submit your questions. We just went through the questions. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, apparently I got ahead of myself. So did we go through the questions? No, we did not. Question. In all, what do you feel about the increase of white animals in the past few years? This is from Colorful Insight, way early in the show. What do you feel about the increase of white animals in the past few years? Chris, I'm going to go to you first. Go ahead.
Yes, so there have been so many white animals, and some of them are more, populous than I would ever imagine. But yeah, so I view the white animals as the super protectors. I believe that they're white, and they're giving us the sign and symbology that they're there to protect something. Usually it's a geographical area. Sometimes it could be another species. Yeah, so there's all different reasons why there could be a white animal. But yeah, so just one more sign that the timelines are changing, because I definitely don't ever remember so many white animals before.
And to add to that, we've seen
positive then?
Yeah.
You feel it's positive then?
Chris? Chris.
Yeah, definitely myself.
Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely positive.
Excellent. Cynthia, go ahead.
Well, we've got the plant kingdom too, like the white redwood that showed up, and that was also seen to be a protector. And it seems so counterintuitive that there'd be a white redwood tree, because they photosynthesize with their leaves, their needles. And if they're white, then they need to get support from another tree, which they do. So clearly nature itself recognizes this tree is doing something special. And so it's being supported by other trees. And I think even in the animal kingdom, if it's a white animal, it's going to stand out to predators. It'll need to be protected. So it's a protector who's being protected. And we see that with humans. We see that with our shamans. The shaman would be doing an inward journey to bring the favorable weather conditions for the crops and for the people. And the shaman would sometimes need to be protected but they're also doing the protecting. And I think it's almost like these are shaman animals and shaman plants in a way. So they're protectors, but they're not on the battlefield. They're going kind of inward, interdimensionally. Very powerful.
I love the shaman reference there. That is awesome. I would actually agree with that. That makes a lot of sense. Bringing a new energy, a world walking energy, if you will, an interdimensional energy is what I'm looking for here, into the world. So interesting. What do I think about the increase? I think that you guys are right. Personally, I think you guys are spot on with the protector of the species coming in. We need more protectors in this interesting time of change. It could even show that the earth is going back to more of a purity, believe it or not, getting rid of the evil and the bad. And though it takes time to do, it could show a increase in purity and pureness on the earth as more and more creatures become leucistic or even albino, but leucistic and continue to show up on the timeline, or we move into their timelines, whichever that case may be.
Yeah.
And then we have one more question here, and we will close it out after that. Wasted Millennium says, question to the panel. Have you heard the music of reality? By this, I mean, sometimes I hear our reality forming as tunes, so to speak, always changing and morphing. Cynthia, this sounds like something that's right inside your wheelhouse. I think of you the moment I read this. What do you think?
Well, I was thinking I've got some good stories. They're different. I hear weird stuff. Yeah, totally. Yes. I notice it when I'm on an airplane trip and I'm just listening to the hum of the aircraft. You could call it white noise, but I'm hearing sounds in the noise. So that's one I think anybody can do. And then of course, me being me, I've heard some really weird stuff. So yeah, I'd say yes. yeah, elves knocking at the window. My house is rung like a bell, like it's being struck by this large thing. I don't even go look because I already know. Oh, that's I hear it, and it's a real thump, but then it rings, I'll hear that. But I've also, in a thunderstorm, I think last year or the year before, I could hear music, the music of the spheres. Seriously, it sounded like a full orchestra in a thunderstorm. And I'm thinking, no way. Like it's live music. So I open the front door and there's rain falling and I can hear all the sounds of the storm clear as a bell. I'm hearing real music, beautiful music, just out of just like nowhere. That's not a stereo. Nobody was playing music outside. nobody could be, but it's coming clear as as if it's right there, right in front of me. And it was extraordinary. So, but I think what Wasted Millennial is getting at is more the creational stuff. And I
Not
haven't heard-
necessarily. He says
Okay.
exactly, Cynthia. I usually hear it in the shower behind the running water. So I think you're right on what he's talking about.
and it was not random noise. It was coherent. It was beautiful. If you asked me which composer was it, it didn't sound like an earthly composer. It was totally, I mean, this is music of the spheres stuff. Oh, good. I'm glad we're on the same page. Okay.
Yeah, I'll add to that too. So at Thanksgiving, I'm sitting next to my aunt, and my aunt's like, Chris, do you ever hear music in your head? And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, I'm getting all this music. I'm like, what kind of music? She's like, big bands playing. And she's like, there's no radio, there's nothing going on. And it's like, I hear full orchestras playing. And I've heard other people tell me about they hear all different kinds of songs, like as clear as day in their head, like they're listening to a radio. So I think people's clear audio skills are definitely coming online to be able to pick up on those type of things. So yeah,
Nice.
definitely a phenomenon that I keep hearing over and over again.
And since childhood, I've been able to hear music in my head. So that's like something I'm used to that. I realized other people apparently don't, but to me, it's like, let's tune into that, because then you can write your own music anytime and always have a song, even if you can't remember one. But I think a lot of people don't, but maybe they are starting to tap into it. I don't know how old your aunt is, but that's amazing to, come into that.
I've
somewhere.
always joked about the jukebox is broken in my head that just plays random songs when it wants.
But
and then
are they
it'll go, oh, this song sounds like that song. Let's play that one.
Well, that can be a form of guidance for a lot of people. If you hear a song, and it's something that if you sing it out loud or kind of tune into it, maybe it's telling you something. And a lot of people, they'll get inspiration and guidance that way too.
A lot of times it is tended to be guidance of some type. I also go on this question back to the concept of, and I think Chris sort of referenced this a moment ago, the phantom radio. You've heard of this, right?
No.
So you're sitting in your room, you're by yourself, nobody else in the house, and maybe a fan or something on in the other room, and you swear you hear a conversation going on. But you go look, or so you hear a radio playing like in the distance, like way out. You can kind of hear like something playing. So you go look, and there's nothing there. It's called the phantom radio experience. It happened to quite a lot of people, actually. Do you know what I'm talking about now, or?
Yeah. But usually,
Okay.
For me, it's usually connected with something I'm doing, and it can come through really clear. Like I've had Native American indigenous flute music playing in the house right after I'd written a paper about the Hopi, comes true being hoped for, and their language, manifestation language, using words like Tunatia and Tunatjava, and working with their energy body and their bodies. And I think I had some doubts, and then I'm just hearing like, that's seriously flute music, and there's no stereo. Nobody's in the house except me.
Right.
And it's real. It's like right there in the house, loud. I mean, it's like, but not annoying, beautiful, not bad music, good music.
Yeah, and something else too, if you start hearing love songs, it could be that you're about to meet your soulmate.
Nice.
So keep that in mind too.
Good advice.
So could this be reality, the music of reality that we're hearing, just in different versions that reference us individually?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we definitely are tuning into it and learning to listen deeper, look deeper, feel more, see more, hear more, become more. We're expanding.
I would fully agree with that. All right. Anything else to add, guys, before we close this out here?
I'll keep asking, how good can it get, no matter what's happening. That's always my advice.
By the way, I have a workmate, Cynthia, real quick, who has been watching my stuff and has found your work. And I don't know if they just found your work or what, but they were telling me the other day how much they really enjoyed watching your work and how positive and upbeat you are. So I just wanted to pass that along to you.
Nice to hear. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cynthia Sue Larson from Reality Shifters. Beneath me, and on the screen, is the quantum businessman, Christopher Notcher. Really need to work on that wording there.
Christopher Anatra. Yes.
Christopher Anatra, the duck man.
The duck whisperer. Yeah.
The duck whisperer.
Hey, that's a good one. I like that.
And on behalf of Shane Robinson and Unbiased and On the Fence, we are the International Mandela Effect Conference. I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. You guys know who I am. But together we are the International Mandela Effect Conference, and we will see you guys next month right here on this channel. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, where we go, we continue. Together we go. Together we grow.
We grow. Woo! Let's do it.